Good evening and welcome to the May 9th Charlton Board of Selectmen meeting. Before we rise to Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like to announce some sad news that we lost one of our most beloved members of our community last night. Peter Cooper Sr. Passed away, and he was a member of the Finance Committee, and pretty much you can see him all around town. A very great person that we'll all miss. So after we say the pledge to the flag, I ask we please remain standing for a moment of silence. We'll start with that pledge. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ask you please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. We'll start with the reading of the agenda. We'll go over our April 25th regular meeting minutes. Then we'll move on to community relations, announcements, and open forums. We have 3 items under appointments and resignations. Item number 1 is a resignation and appointment for Council on Aging. Item number 2 is an appointment for the Historical Commission. Item number 3 is the appointment for a per diem dispatcher. We have 4 items under scheduled appointments. We have a 6:40 appointment with Police Chief Search Committee / Assessment Formation. We have 6:45 appointment for the Treehouse Brewery, a request. We have a 7 o'clock appointment for a poll hearing for Cranberry Meadow Road. And we have a 7:15 appointment for a dog hearing about a dangerous dog. Under new business, we have 6 items. Item number 1 is a request for MDA to fill the boot drive from the Charlton Fire Department. Item number 2 is a law enforcement week, a request to hang blue ribbons. Item number 3 is a special 1-day liquor license request for Sierra Wales. Item number 4 is a special permit application for Wireless Edge Towers LLC. Item number 5 is a request for Tootsie Roll Drive for the Knights of Columbus. And item number 6 is the reorganization of the Board of Selectmen. We have 1 item under old business, and that is the annual town meeting warrant with motions, and also the FY17 end of year department transfers. We'll then move on to committee reports, Board of Selectmen policy reviews, then we'll move on to our student select person report, then our town administrator's report, and then any other business unknown at the time of posting. And our next regular meeting will be May 23rd. What is the board's wishes with our April 25th meeting minutes?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Singer.
I move to approve the minutes.
Thank you. We have a motion to a second.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any abstain?
Abstain.
Motion passes with 3 ayes and 2 abstentions. Thank you. We'll now move on to announcements, community relations, and open forums. First, I'd like to welcome Ms. Noble to the Select Board. Congratulations, welcome aboard. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you so very much. I have felt nothing but welcome since I started, so I am looking forward to the next 3 years.
Absolutely, and I know it's right into the fire, especially with budget and town meeting coming up.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Speaking of annual town meeting, the annual town meeting will be held this Monday, May 15th at 7 p.m. at the Charlton Middle School. A message from the Sewer Department. A reminder to all senior sewer customers, July 1st, 2017 is our new year. Please bring your completed senior discount forms with your identification materials to the wastewater treatment plant at 8A Worcester Road on or before June 30th. A message from the Fire Department. May is Electrical Safety Month. Here are some tips. Replace any worn electrical cords around the home. Take extra caution when using electrical hedge trimmers, and keep all wires clear of the cutting edge. As the weather turns warmer, do not overload your circuits. And lastly, call a licensed electrician to add outlets to your home wherever needed. The Town Hall will be closed on Monday, May 29th in observance of Memorial Day. The draft Mass DOT and MBTA Capital Investment Plan update for the fiscal years 2018 to 2022 is a multi-billion-dollar program that makes long-term multimodal investments across the Commonwealth. The CIP, that's the Capital Investment Plan, covers all Mass DOT highways and municipal projects, regional airports, rail and transit, including MBTA and regional transit authorities, as well as the Registry of Motor Vehicles. Mass DOT will be holding a series of public meetings across the Commonwealth to present and discuss the draft capital and investment plan update, to seek additional public comments and answer questions. Your participation is critical to its success. If you're unable to attend a meeting, a copy of the presentation will be available at mass.gov/massdot/CIP. Public comments can be made, may be submitted by email to masscip@state.ma.us. For information and dates and places of meeting, please visit townofcharlton.net. Are there any other announcements? Is there anyone here for open forum? Seeing none, we'll move on to our first item under appointments and resignations. That's the resignation appointment for the Council on Aging. Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir. The Council on Aging is here for two reasons. First, attached is a resignation from Madeline Manfield, resigning from the Council on Aging due to unforeseen circumstances. The board should accept Ms. Manfield's resignation. A letter has been prepared and is in your sign folder.
Thank you.
And second, upon notification of the resignation from the Council on Aging, an opening was placed on cable and the town's website. A talent bank form was received from Susan Crockett from Dresser Hill Road. The Council on Aging is recommending the Board of Selectmen appoint Ms. Crockett to fill the term of Ms. Manfield, which will expire on June 30th, 2019. As the board's policy states, when an opening on a committee occurs, the vote for appointment must be done jointly and by roll call vote of both boards.
Thank you, Ms.
They are
Craver.
here and ready to come forward.
Thank you. And before we do the appointment, I'll ask the board's wishes with the accepting of the resignation.
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath.
I make a motion that we accept Madeline Manfield's resignation from the Council on Aging, and that we send a letter with our thanks for her serving on the Council on Aging.
Second. A motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, move to a vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. And thank you, Ms. Manfield, for your work. Now I invite the council agent to come up, please, and all the members, I ask you to please open your meeting, and then we'll each make the motion, and then we'll go by roll call vote for the appointment.
Call meeting to order. Present are Gail Stokes, Joan Malinowski, Barbara Lawson, Jim Howard, Paul Kay, because I can never pronounce his last name, and Irene Langevin. I'm chairman, and Jim is vice chair.
Thank you. I'll ask the board's wishes for a motion.
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath.
I make a motion that we appoint Susan Crockett of 213 Dresser Hill Road to the Council on Aging to fill the seat until June 30th, 2019.
Thank you. A motion and a second. Would you also like to make a motion from your board?
Somebody make a motion?
I'll move that we accept the nomination of Susan Crockett to the Council on Aging.
Second.
Thank you. Motions and seconds. Is there any discussion on the motions? Seeing none, we'll go this way and a roll call vote. Mr. McGrath.
Aye.
Ms. Noble.
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you for your
Thank
appointment.
you.
Thank you, Ms. Crockett, for stepping up. And with that, we'll move on to our second item under appointments and resignations. That's the appointment for the Historical Commission. Ms. Craver?
Yes. Attached is a talent bank form from Lynn Flanagan Doble, seeking to be appointed to the Historical Commission. The Historical Commission has reviewed the request and would recommend the board make the appointment as requested. Please note that this commission has not been a full commission in quite some time and are in need of members. We have invited the Historical Commission to attend tonight's meeting, but due to conflicts in their schedules on Tuesdays, they are unable to be here.
Thank you, and we're allowed to appoint them without their being present?
Yes.
Thank you. And what is the board's wishes with Ms. Doble?
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I make a motion that we appoint Ms. Doble to the Historical Commission.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? It's not Noble, it's Doble. Seeing no discussion, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you. We will now go to our first item under schedule's appointment. We have a 6:40 appointment with the Police Chief Search Committee / Assessment Formation. And we're on time, Ms. Craver.
We have an appointment for per diem.
Per diem? I'm sorry, I checked that one off early.
That's okay.
We'll go to item number 3 under appointments resignations, the appointment for a per diem dispatcher. I just wanted to stay on schedule. Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir. Attached is a request from our provisional police chief, Dan Charette, asking the board to appoint Elida Sequin of Worcester, Mass. As a per diem dispatcher. This appointment will help reduce some of the overtime shifts that they are now experiencing for the dispatcher duties. She has completed all of the necessary training and is ready to do her in-house practical training. Chief, is she here?
Thank you. I
Is
welcome
she
you.
here? Okay, come forward.
Welcome.
You can sit.
Yeah, please have a seat. Please have a seat. If you wouldn't mind, if you want to say, introduce yourself to the board and to the town, the fine folks at home.
My name is Adila Segan.
No?
The training right now is very comprehensive to bring someone in, even to begin training them in-house, and she's done a wonderful job with that. She comes highly recommended, and it will certainly be a help with our very hectic overtime
Use
schedule.
the microphone, please.
It'll certainly be a big help with our very hectic overtime schedule, so we're anxious literally to get her in tomorrow and begin her in-house training.
Absolutely. I've seen firsthand how crazy it can get down there, so thank you for coming out, for putting your name forward. So what are the wishes of the board? Mr. Singer?
Mr. Chair, I move to make the appointment as recommended.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion on the motion?
Just again, thank you. People, I don't think people realize, I can talk today, how difficult being a dispatcher can be, so thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you so much and welcome aboard.
Thank you all very much.
That wasn't fast.
All right. And now we'll go to our first item under scheduled appointments, and that's our 6:40 appointment for the Police Chief Search Committee. Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir. At the board's last meeting, I provided you with an RFP for the Police Chief Assessment Center, where the board gave the authorization to make it public and start the process. As requested, we have advertised the citizen-at-large opening on cable and the town's website as of April 28th. As of today, we have not received any requests for appointments. Jessica, our Human Resource Director, stated that the RFP has been released and posted. We need to assemble the search committee as referenced in the RFP. One of the responsibilities of the search committee is the selection of the most appropriate proposal for the assessment center vendor. The proposals are due by May 11th. The goal is to have the proposals reviewed and a final direct vendor chosen by the search committee for recommendation to the Board of Selectmen for your meeting on May 23rd. The second role of the search committee will be in the assisting of the final selection of the chief from the final 3 candidates established from the assessment center. The committee may be responsible for formulating the final questions for these candidates, being present for the final interviews, and sharing impressions of the candidates for a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen will have final say as to whom they choose to appoint. Human Resources, the Human Resources Division, which is the civil service, has civil service requirements for defending a choice that is not ranked first on the list. That process will need to be followed. The search committee will be expected to be able to work with the vendor chosen to ensure the process is fair, meets regulatory guidelines, and is in the best interest of the town and its residents. Our HR director has recommended the following for search committee members: 1 Board of Selectmen member, 1 Finance Committee member, 1 citizen at large, the current interim chief, the Human Resource Director, the fire chief, and the town administrator. The Board of Selectmen is the appointing authority for this position, which is a high-profile position with much authority and manages a large budget. Because of the budget, the Finance Committee member is recommended. Citizen participation should be present because of the inherent concern for public safety as well as transparency in the process. The interim chief has come to know the staff dynamics in the police department, the issues they address, and the type of chief that would be effective in Charlton. The HR director can help ensure a fair process that remains compliant and assess the final candidates from a unique vantage point. The fire chief holds a similar public safety position and knows the needs of the town, its residents, and businesses. The town administrator directly supervises this position and has a working knowledge of the specific challenges of this position and therefore the skill set needed to be successful. The town administrator and the Board of Selectmen are privy to the future plans for the town that may be affected by the leadership of this person selected for the role in the community. Our HR director has also suggested that we be careful to keep the committee relatively condensed to be able to best manage the process. Both Jessica and our chief are here and will be present to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Ms. Craver. Mr. Singer?
Do you wanna
I have
pass
a-
them to-
Sure.
I have a question, Mr. Chair, if I may. The recommendation is for one selectman, and I know from past conversations we've had that there are at least two selectmen who would like to be on this committee, and I think the discussion was to include two of them as part of the committee. If we're only going to have one, and we have no external candidates from citizen at large, can a selectman fill that role? Can, if no one from the communities come forward to be the citizen member of the board, can another selectman fill that role as the citizen, since they're a resident of Charlton?
I don't see why not.
One question for you, Ms. Craver. How long has it's been advertised for? 3 weeks now, 4 weeks?
Since April 29th.
One thing I have with filling that role is, we still haven't created the committee. This meeting, we're looking at actually figuring out who we want for the committee and actually creating it. I think, would the board, what would the board's wishes before we appoint someone from our board? I would ask that we work on deciding what we want as the makeup. Mr. Singer has an idea for that change.
My only suggestion was the original conversations that we had all had circled around having two members of this board with a citizen member and everybody else. So the only change between what we had discussed previously and their recommendation is one versus two selectmen.
So I would follow with the same suggestion that David has, is probably have two members from the Board of Selectmen on there, and also a member, from a citizen from town. I know there is one citizen that has voiced his desire to be on the committee. I don't know if he knows it's up on cable or not. I will contact him. But Mr. Dave Peters, former selectman, former state rep, former director of Department of Fisheries and Wildlife, was very interested in becoming a member of that committee as the citizen at large. So I will make sure that he gets his letter in.
Thank you. Ms. Lorenz, do you see an issue with having two selectmen on the committee? I know the recommendation was to have it more condensed, but I would feel having two members of the board be present would be beneficial to the process.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking that it was already rather large, even with the recommendation that I was making. I mean, we certainly can. The more people on it can sometimes lengthen the process, and it can be less manageable, but.
Thank you, Ms. McGrath.
So I just want to make a statement. Basically, the police chief works on the day-to-day under the town administrator, but ultimately answers to the Board of Selectmen. So that is my reason for wanting to have two people on the board.
And I know I think safely say probably every member of this board would like to be on that committee. Ms. Craver?
I have a suggestion, and this has happened before because we have finance committee members who act as an alternate or sit in, but aren't necessarily voting members on a committee. We have that with the building so that there's no conflict with them being objective in the money piece. Perhaps you might trade out and have a finance committee person be the, kind of an alternate, so that we'd at least have a quorum, because sometimes, certainly, some of these meetings may happen in the daytime, people may have trouble getting there, so it might be good to have an alternate person, so whoever can be there.
I
so
think
we
that
can make
also
sure.
is one of the reasons why it helps to have the two selectmen, so in case one couldn't make it, you still have one there.
Right.
So that could be an alternative, would be to put the two, because that's where you lost your one selectman, was
Yeah.
adding a finance committee member.
Okay.
So you could just
Is
have
there
two
a-
selectmen and then have the finance committee as the alternate person.
So,
So you could
Mr.
have a
Chair,
quorum.
Mr. Singer?
I would make a motion then to create the search committee comprised of 2 board of selectmen, 1 member of the finance committee as a non-voting alternate, 1 citizen at large, the current interim police chief, the human resource director, fire chief, and town administrator.
Could I ask you to have them as a voting, because that way if we don't have a quorum and we need that person to make a quorum for the meeting, that they have the ability to vote if there's not enough people there?
Okay, so still just a voting.
Just a
alternate.
member, an alternate.
An alternate member?
So the alternate with voting power, so.
Yes, sir.
And I'll
Thank you.
second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, move to a vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Singer?
I'd like to nominate myself and Mr. McGrath to be on that committee. I have pursued the chief's process for, let's just say, years and years with great interest, and would like very much to be on that committee. And I know from previous conversations that Mr. McGrath had also expressed a great interest to be on that committee as well.
I'll second it.
Motion is
So-
second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote on the motion. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Chair votes aye, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for stepping up. Thank you. That easy. Do you, Mr. Craver, do we know when the first meeting of that will take place?
No.
No?
We'll get all the, I will pull everybody together and pull what their record, their,
Availability?
yes.
Thank you.
And we'll bring this to the finance committee to get their member, so we'll make sure we have everybody.
Perfect. With that, we'll go to our item number 2 under schedule appointments. A 6:45 appointment for Treehouse Brewery, a request for a Farmer Series pouring permit. Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir. Attached is a request from Treehouse Brewery Company for a Farmers Series pouring permit, malt beverages to be located at 129 Sturbridge Road, Charlton. This request is for a 52,000 square foot craft beer manufacturing facility where retail sales will be conducted in approximately 6,000 square feet on the second floor. All the necessary paperwork has been completed and approvals have been given by the departments. The chairman should open the public hearing by reading the notice as placed in the newspaper and sent to the abutters. Should the board approve this request, the office will send the completed application with the board's approval to the Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission for final approval.
Thank you. I'll read that, open the hearing right now by reading the notice. Public hearing notice. The Charlton Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 9th, 2017, at 6:45 PM in the Selectmen's Meeting Room at 37 Main Street, Charlton, Mass., to act on a request for a Farmer Series pouring permit for malt beverages to be held by Treehouse Brewing Company, Incorporated, at 129 Sturbridge Road, Charlton, Mass., in a 52,000 square foot craft beer manufacturing facility where retail sales will be conducted in approximately 6,000 square feet on the second floor. Anyone wishing to be heard on this matter should appear on the date and time specified or submit any concerns in writing to the Charlton Board of Selectmen, 37 Main Street, Charlton, Mass. 01507. With that, I will declare the meeting open, the public hearing open at 6:55. Ms. Craver, did we receive any notices or questions or concerns?
No, sir.
Thank you. If you want to introduce yourselves, please, and say your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Glinsky, and I'm the office manager for Treehouse Brewing Company.
Thank you.
I'm Damien Goodrow, one of the owners of the company. I'm here for moral support on Kim. She's going to practice for her very first public hearing. So,
Thank you
but
and
I'll
welcome.
be here to answer any questions.
So, Thank you for being here, and are there any questions from the board?
Yes.
Ms. Noble?
When is this facility expected to be opened?
We're looking at the end of this summer. We still have a
Speak a
lot of
little
moving
more.
parts.
Yeah, make sure you speak right into the
Oh,
mic.
sorry, we're looking at the end of the summer, so we have a lot of moving parts still going on. It's still under construction, so
The answer to that was as soon as possible.
Make sure you
as soon as
speak.
possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as possible.
Okay.
We were scheduled to open, believe it or not, in August, and as it is right now, we are a little bit ahead of schedule.
Oh, wow.
It's been a mad rush. It's been 18-hour days up at the site, so that's why I'm letting her lead this, because I'm full construction mind right now. But it looks like we should be right around that midsummer mark.
Okay. And what's the capacity?
It's
How many
100
can you bottle per day?
Oh, that's a great question. So right now, the way the breweries measure their quantities is in barrels.
Yes.
So barrels, 31 gallons.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we are at about 240 barrels a week in Munson, and we'll be at about 1,000 barrels a week in Charlton.
Okay.
Once ramp up begins.
Okay. Now, this is also going to be a retail facility?
It is.
It's my experience that your lines at your retail facility in Munson are extremely long, and people can wait for a very long time and still not leave with the product. Are you going to be working to remedy that?
We are. There's two answers to that question.
Okay.
We do hope that the long lines will begin to diminish because we'll be open longer hours and we'll have more product. Right now, what happens is we run out on a daily basis. So people have to come early, and they know that because of our parking restrictions in Munson, as soon as our parking is maxed out, we have to open our doors.
Okay.
So that's what causes a major backup at opening.
Which is
And that sort of-
exactly why I'm asking these questions, because I don't want to see that happen here in Charlton. I'd like
Correct.
the people who come here to Charlton to get the product, to
Right.
not create a traffic jam and then leave unhappy.
You and me both.
Okay.
That'll
As
make
long as we're on the same
everyone
page.
very, very happy.
I think that's why they
Okay.
opened a second brewery.
That is why we're doing it.
Mr. Singer?
Okay.
Yes, and I just want to make sure that when that happens, I can get my Brighton alter ego.
Right.
So, 'cause I've waited in that line. More than once.
We've been doing I don't know if you've been lately, but what we've been doing lately is cutting back on the growler filling portions of it and canning much more of it. On a Wednesday when we open, we can process a transaction every 6 seconds and go through about 2,500 people in just over 4 hours. So
Can I ask another question?
Oh, Ms. Graver?
Yes. So tonight you're before the board for a pouring license. Can you
Correct.
just explain the difference in, so you have your brewery where you're bottling and you're selling for off-site. Can you just talk a little bit about what what you'll be doing for consumption on-site?
Absolutely. Consumption on-site is something that we do only sporadically right now in Munson, and we apply whenever we want a license through the town. We've had 16 successful pour days with the town of Munson at this point. We usually tend to wait on Saturdays until we are getting low on beer so that the customers do have the option to not leave empty-handed but get to try some of our beer. In Charlton, we're hoping for a different scenario where people come in, they get to mingle a little bit, have a pint while we fill their growlers and while they, look at the facility because it's pretty magnificent, and also be able to, walk around and be with their friends and have it be a great place for people to enjoy local craft beverage. So right now, we don't have a permit for that. The facility in Munson is a lot smaller, doesn't have any public facilities. So in Charlton, where we have all of this nice new space, we'll hopefully have the option to have people consuming on premises.
Thank you. Ms. Noble?
So what facilities have been built or are going to be built at the site here in Charlton?
We have public bathrooms, which are one thing that we don't have in Munson. We have an indoor retail space of about 6,000 feet, and then the outside property is beautifully groomed. There's a big koi pond. We're going to have an outdoor pavilion. I think it ends up being about 54,000 square feet outside with picnic tables and just a nice grassy area.
Okay, and who will be doing the pouring?
Our staff, we have a staff right now of about 12 retail sales employees who are all very well-trained in tip certified, and everybody has been, we ID everybody. No
Okay.
ID, no beer. And
Okay.
that's a strict policy, and especially when we do pour the pour days.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Singer?
Quick question. So, a lot of the other to say craft brew establishments that offer on-site, they do flights. People sit there and they don't come in and have a pint while they wait for their growlers to be filled. They come in and they might order a flight, which you know what a flight is. They might have 2, 3, 4. They might be there for a couple of hours. Are you set up, are you going to be set up for that? Or are you anticipating people are going to be coming in, possibly having a pint while they fill their growlers and leaving, but you're not going to have a setup where people are actually going to be in there for an hour or two?
In the beginning, we're not going to have any indoor seating space. Outside will be more of that. And in the beginning, I feel like we think there's going to be a lot of hype, so people are going to come in, wait for their growlers, get their pint, and probably leave because that's what they're used to with our facility in Munson. But I think that eventually, as things get to a better pace, we can have people staying longer and, enjoying themselves more.
One thing that might be happening in Charlton is to actually come enjoy a beer in Charlton, did I say Munson? In Charlton, that people will be able to enjoy a pint of beer that you cannot enjoy anywhere else. You can't have it in cans and you can't take it home with you. So simply come enjoy that pint that we are pouring for you that you can only receive in Charlton. So that's what mainly people are going to be consuming on premises.
Mr. McGrath?
First of all, hopefully things are going well with the town departments and you've had no issues, Damien.
Yeah, you went straight to my closing statement.
Okay, so I won't steal your thunder and I'll move on.
Okay.
The other portion I want to say is that I have family members waiting with bated breath for you to open.
Excellent.
The other, more towards the public hearing side of it, how many parking spaces? I can't, up there.
Yeah, so we have 150 parking spaces right now. It's a very large parking spot with plenty of reserve parking in the first lot. I don't know if any of you have visited the particular lot that we're talking about, but our building is offset on the back 40 acres of property, which leaves us the front 30 acres worth of reserve overflow.
Okay.
We don't anticipate ever needing more than that.
Okay, and more question to the chief. I'm sure that you stand ready to help in any issues that we have with parking or traffic entering onto Route 20.
We certainly will.
Chief, make sure you speak into the mic.
Certainly. I beg pardon. Certainly, as soon as they're getting closer, we'll meet more, we'll talk, and we'll make sure we work out a safe design for the traffic.
Thank you, Chief.
Now, is there anyone, sorry, Ms. Graver?
Yes, I just have a little more information. So they have 52,000 square feet. I had said that already for the beer manufacturing facility. The retail sales will be conducted in approximately 6,000 feet, correct? Square feet on the second floor. The retail customers will not have access to the brewery floor or the operations, correct? The tentative hours for the retail sales will be Tuesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., Sunday, 12 to 6, and no sales on Monday, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there anyone here for the public meeting? Anyone here like to speak? Mr. Swenson?
This is the first time I've had a chance to meet anyone from Treehouse, so welcome. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
One thing that's gone on for years in this town, if you've paid attention, which I'm sure you have, is that we had issues with bringing in public water which would be adequate even to have a facility like yours. And in all of our negotiations, the running joke was, if you guys could only get a brewery, you'd have plenty of water use. So apparently we got a brewery. So I just want to thank you for choosing Charlton. Wish you well and welcome you to town.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion?
No. Through the chair,
Mr. McGrath?
I make a motion we close the public hearing.
Second.
Thank you. Motion and second to close the public hearing. Discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And the public hearing is now closed at 7:05 PM. And what are these board's wishes for the final approval?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Singer?
I move to approve, yes, with great joy, I move to approve the license request.
Second?
Motion is second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Listen, on behalf of Treehouse, I can't thank you guys all enough. The whole town of Charlton has been phenomenal with us from the building inspector to the selectman to the fire chief and everyone in between. We can't thank you enough, and we're excited to hopefully have everybody up this summer.
Thank you. We're excited and happy you're here. So thank you for being part of the family.
Thank you very much.
That's
And
music.
please come visit.
Through the chair. That's music to our ears.
Yeah.
We hear the bad things all the time. We,
Right.
we
No,
like
I'm
to
sure
hear
you do.
good things.
Yeah, nothing but great things. Thank you.
Thank you again. We'll now move to our 7 o'clock appointment for a poll hearing for Cranberry Meadows Road. Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir. Attached, you'll find a request from Verizon New England Incorporated and Massachusetts Electric Company, Ngrid, to place one jointly owned pole numbered T.2.5, E.2-50 on the easterly side of Cranberry Meadow Road at a point approximately 402 feet northerly from the center line of North Sturbridge Road. The request has been forwarded and approved by both Chief of Police and Highway Superintendent. The chairman should open the hearing by reading the notice as sent to the abutters.
Thank you, and I'll do so now. A public hearing notice. The Charlton Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 9th, 2017, at 7 o'clock p.m. in the Selectmen's Meeting Room at 37 Main Street, Charlton, Mass. 01507, to act on a request from Verizon New England Incorporated and Massachusetts Electric Co., National Grid, seeking permission to locate poles, wires, cables, and fixtures, including the necessary anchors, guys, and other such sustaining and protecting fixtures to be owned and used in common by petitioners along and across the following public way: Cranberry Meadow Road, place one jointly owned pole numbered T.2.5/E.2-50 on the easterly side of Cranberry Meadow Road at a point approximately 402 feet northerly from the center line of North Sturbridge Road. Anyone wishing to be heard on this matter should appear on the date and time specified or submit any concerns in writing. And I'll declare that public hearing open at 7:08 p.m. Ms. Craver, did you receive any notices?
No, sir.
Thank you. Sir, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Paul Davis. I work for a company by the name of UC Synergetic out of Sunderland. We do engineering design work for Verizon, contracted, and I'm here tonight representing Verizon on their behalf.
Thank you very much, Mr. Davis. Is there any questions from the board? Any concerns? Is anyone here for the for the hearing?
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Second.
Thank you. A motion is second to close the public hearing. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And the public hearing is now closed at 7:08 p.m.
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I make a motion that we allow Verizon to place a jointly owned pole number T.2.5/E.2-50 on the easterly side of Cranberry Meadow Road at a point approximately 402 feet from the northerly center line of North Sturbridge Road.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is second. It is a mouthful. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
All right, we are a little early for our 7:15 appointment, so, yes, Mr. Craver?
Just for the record?
Yep.
I looked over and saw our student select person and said hi at the same time you were voting, so I want to make sure nobody mistakes that I was trying to vote. I went hi, and you guys went yes, and I went, oh, ooh.
Thank you,
Wrong
thank you,
time. So
thank you
just
for the
wanted to clarify
clarification.
that.
Thank you for the clarification. Since we are a little early for our 7:15 dog hearing, we will, without any objections from the board, move to item number 1 under old business, new business, a request for an MDA fill the boot drive from the Charlton Fire Department. Mr. Craver, sorry to go out of order.
No worries.
It's on page 74. Perfect.
Okay. The Charlton Fire Department and Local 4023 are requesting permission to hold their MDA Fill the Boot Drive on Saturday, June 3rd, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. with a rain date of June 4th at the intersection of Masonic Home Road, Old Worcester Road, North Main Street, and Main Street. This request was forwarded and approved by Chief Charette contingent upon the following safety precautions. All volunteers must wear bright colored vests. Orange traffic cones must be set out at the roads requested for a distance of not less than 50 feet on each respective way prior to reaching the boot drive location. A minimum of 5 traffic cones on each roadway should be put in place at a distance no greater than 10 feet apart. And signs warning voluntary boot drive ahead must be erected not less than 75 feet from the toll station. Should the board approve this request, please consider adding the recommendations from Chief Charette to the motion.
Thank you, Ms. Graver. Welcome. If you want to state your names for the record and for the people at home.
Todd Betts, Charlton Fire.
Jenny Richard, Muscular Dystrophy Association.
Thank you and welcome. What are the board's wishes?
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I make a motion that we approve the Charlton Fire Department's request for an MDA fill the boot drive.
Second.
Thank you. A motion and a second. Can I ask a question? Why a boot? You can speak right into the mic too, please.
This has been a tradition since 1964 with the Muscular Dystrophy Association. The International Association of Firefighters has been our largest partner and basically pretty much keeps MDA running. They've raised over $500 million for MDA. So it's just a very efficient, short amount of time, easy way to raise a lot of money to help us fund the critical research that we need to be funding right now.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll move to a vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Looking forward to filling that boot. And now we'll move on. Still early for our 7:15 appointment, so we'll move on to item number 2 under new business. The Law Enforcement Week request to hang blue ribbons. Ms. Craver?
Yes, we've received a request from Lori Ann Lanfer, a member of the Massachusetts State Police Wives Club, stating that the Law Enforcement Week is coming up from May 14th through the 20th. The Wives Club is asking the board, once again, for permission to hang blue ribbons throughout the town of Charlton for the week to show support for our local and state law enforcement personnel. The board approved this request last year with the stipulation that they remove the ribbons when the week was over. What is the board's wishes?
Thank you, Ms. Craver. Before we act on this, do you have any issues that were brought up last time? I remember seeing a lot of ribbons. It was nice to see a lot of support for our public servants like that. So, seeing that there's no...
There were no complaints. People
complaints.
did notice them, and they were appreciative
Thank
that
you.
we were honoring public safety.
Thank you. And I'll entertain a motion from the board.
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I make a motion that we approve the request to hang blue ribbons for Law Enforcement Week.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? For the stipulations, can we give them the same stipulations as last year's? Make sure they're removed timely and whatnot.
Yes.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you. I think we can get through one more item under new business. Item number 3 is a special one-day liquor license request for Sierra Wales. Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir. Attached is a request from Sierra Wales for a special liquor license for wine and malt beverages to be used for a wedding reception on May 13th from 4 p.m. to midnight, 12 a.m. at the Jocelyn Campground. This request has been forwarded and approved by the Building Commissioner, Fire Department, and Police Department. Per the board's policy, the license, if the days are requested or approved, should be issued for 2 additional days for the following reasons. May 12th, to allow delivery of the alcohol to the establishment where no sales will be allowed. May 13th for the sale on the approved date and time as listed. May 14th to allow for pickup of any unused alcohol, and there would be no sales allowed. These dates would be reflected on the license. The sponsor of this event would be Sierra Wales. I would recommend that the board approve the special license as requested.
Thank you, Ms. Craver. And what are the wishes of the board?
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I make a motion that we approve the liquor license for the days stated, May 12th, 2017, May 13th, 2017, and May 14th, 2017. The only days approved for sale of the product is May 13th. The other 2 days are for delivery and pickup.
Thank you. Do we have a motion? Do you have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much. And now, excuse the shuffle around, but we'll now go back to our 7:15 scheduled appointment.
Do you want to just do one more? It's there.
My watch is 7:15. That one's always been a little slow.
Okay.
The
Computer
Clock.
says 7:15.
Perfect.
Mhm.
All right, we'll then move to our 7:15 dog hearing for a dangerous dog, back on page 47 in our packets. Hopefully I stalled long enough. Ms. Graber?
Yes, sir. Please find attached a complaint received on a nuisance dog by reason of vicious disposition owned by Richard Guerin of 8 South Sullivan Road. 2, you found letters hand-delivered to the owner of the dog by the Charlton Police, which as of this writing, this memo, we have not heard from. Copies of the letter, actually, let me put this back. Mr. Guerin called and asked if the meeting could be held a different day as he was waiting for paperwork from the vet. The office advised him that the hearing would need to be held due to the posting, but he could ask for a continuance if needed, and the board would have to decide that. Copies of the letter were given to the police department and the animal control officer. And a letter from the animal control officer with the complaints and her recommendation. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section 157, once a complaint is received that a dog is a nuisance by reason of vicious disposition or excessive barking or other disturbance, the selectmen shall investigate or cause to be investigated such complaint, including an examination on oath of the complainant, and may make such order concerning the restraint or disposal of such dog as may be deemed necessary. It is that order that the owner may then appeal to the district court. I've attached the public hearing guidelines for dog complaints for your use during the hearing. The chairman swears in by oath all those persons who are to give testimony in the matter before the board. All persons are asked to rise, raise their right hand, and repeat the following oath. I, state your name, do solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony that I am about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, acknowledging this oath under the pains and penalties of perjury, so help me God.
Thank you. And then the hearing is open at 7:18. I ask anyone here giving testimony to please rise. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I'll go line by line. I state your name.
I, Richard Guerin,
Do solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony I'm about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Acknowledging this oath under the pains and penalties of perjury, so help me God. Thank you. I'll ask the complainant to please come forward and read the complaint. And please state your name and speak right into the microphone, please.
Charlton Animal Control Officer Ann Salute. Do you want me to read the whole statement, or do you want me to just explain?
You might want to read the statement into the record.
Okay. In December of 2016, I received a call from Oxford Animal Control Officer Kelly Flynn, who is here tonight. She called to inform me that I had to do a 10-day quarantine on a dog that used to live in Oxford but now has moved to Charlton. The dog had bite history in Oxford of at least one bite she knew of, and she had quarantined the dog for 10 days in Oxford. I attached the orders, which I gave to you guys. The owner of the dog is Richard Guerin, 8 South Sullivan Road, Charlton, Mass. The dog's name is Gabriel, a lab mix, weighing approximately 80 pounds. He's brown with some white and is about 6 years old. His rabies vaccine and license are up to date. She gave me the information, and I gave the order of quarantine for 10 days on December 24th, 2016, for a bite to Nancy Noonan. Nancy has also submitted a written document to pass on. We just got it late, and I apologize.
Thank you. I will pass this out to the
Okay.
rest of the board, and it'll be going to our minutes, and I will read the testimony.
This is from Nancy Noonan. Do you want to read that first, or do you want me to continue?
I'll have you continue, and then I'll read the testimony.
I returned and gave the release after 10 days were up, and the dog was free of rabies, in my opinion. See attached order. On February 14th, 2017, I received another call from Oxford ACO Kelly Flynn. She stated that there had been another 2 bites from Richard Guerin's dog, Gabriel. One to Shane Owens and Tyler Late. She said that Richard had let the dog out of his vehicle without a leash at the Cumberland Farms parking lot, and he ran after the two men and bit them both. Therefore, I did 2 more quarantine orders for 10 days quarantine. I suggested that he should put the dog down after the quarantine, but he didn't want to. The orders were released on 2/25/17. I explained to Richard Guerin that because of all the bites, I would be writing up some conditions on keeping the dog, Gabriel, since he did not want to put the dog down. I did so and had him sign the conditions, which I also gave you a copy of. He told me he could not hold on to the dog sometimes because it was so strong, so I gave him a choke collar to try to help him hold on to the dog better. On April 3rd, 2017, I received a call from Sean Johnson, whom also lives at 8 South Sullivan Road, Charlton. He stated that he was attacked by the dog Gabriel in the house he shares with Richard Guerin. He stated that he was merely walking into the living room when the dog ran after him and bit him. I went there and gave a 10-day quarantine order. At that time, Sean Johnson also showed me a scar on his face, saying that the dog had also bit him in the face several months before, but he never reported it to anyone. I told Richard Guerin that he would have to put the dog down after the 10 days was released because I feel it's a danger to the community. He agreed with me, and I told him I would check a few vets for costs, etc. And I went back and did the release on April 12th. On 4/13/17, I received a call from Gary Melanson on behalf of Richard Guerin, stating that Richard Guerin was not going to put the dog down. I told him I would ask for a hearing from the Board of Selectmen for the order to have the dog put down. I believe the dog is too strong for Richard to handle, and that he did not follow the conditions of muzzling and leashing the dog. Therefore, in my professional opinion, I feel that the dog is a danger to the community, and I'm strongly recommending that the dog be put down.
Thank you. And I'll ask the police department representative to come forward and give their report. Is that you also
I'm
your?
sorry, what?
Are you also the police department representative?
Yes.
Okay. So you're here representing the animal control officer, police department, and animal inspector.
Yes.
Correct. Okay. Before we go to other testimonies, I'll read the testimony given to me. Dated 5/5/17, to whom it may concern. On December 24th, 2016, I, being Nancy Noonan, stopped at my neighbor's home to drop off gifts for their boys. When I was in the doorway leaving, Mrs. McGee gave me a hug. A large pit bull came and lunged at me. He bit my face. I put my hands up to protect my face. I had bites on my nose, mouth, and left hand. I did have to go to UMass Memorial Campus for treatment. They sutured my left hand and put me on antibiotics. Please feel free to call me with any questions. Nancy Noonan, 1 Corey Drive, Oxford, Mass. 015-470, 508-561-8677. Does anyone else have any testimony?
I just,
Sir, if you please speak into the microphone and state your name and address.
Sure. My name is Richard Guerin. I live at number 8 South Sullivan Road in Charlton. I don't even know where to start. I'm a nervous wreck. My dog means the world to me. He's all I have. I brought him to Tufts to have him checked out. They do a behavioral thing with dogs, and I brought a copy for the selectmen.
Yeah.
Thank you. And so I'm doing is asking for a continuance until people get to read it.
This is a lengthy document. Could you please summarize it? So this is a saying that you've been...
It's a document to show why my dog is so aggressive and stuff. He's a rescue dog. I rescued him a couple of years ago, and he was almost starved to death, beaten, and kept in a cage. as he got older, he started getting more aggressive. He used to be the friendliest thing around. I mean, I know I probably gonna hurt myself saying this. I probably should put him down, but he's all I got. I mean, I deal with depression and stuff, and he saves me, you know? So, I don't know, I just need to read that if you would, please. That's from the vet. She works with dogs like that. And, she said, feel free to call if you have any questions.
Thank you. Before we get to questions from the board, I'll ask you if there's any other people here who wish to testify.
I'm here to answer any questions if you have any. I'm the Kelly Flynn, the Animal Control Officer
Okay.
from Oxford. The one thing that I made...
Oh, if you want to please come forward and state your name and address into the microphone, please.
My name's Kelly Flynn. I'm the Oxford Animal Control Officer, and I live at 29 North Sullivan Road in Charlton, Mass. So the one thing that does concern me a little bit is that this dog knows most of these people. Like, Nancy Noonan was a nurse, and she was your mom's nurse. So she knew that dog from going into their house, and then she was at a different house, and she hugged this, I have it right here, McGee, Mrs. McGee, and the dog just leaped right at her face, and she put her hand up to help deflect some of the bite or attack or whatever. And then the at least one of the boys he knew, I should say, at the Cumberland Farms. They were petting him, actually, or went to pet him, and he bit Tyler first, who he knew. I don't know if he knew Shane, though, right?
No.
The other kid. Yeah.
Tyler used to go to the truck and see him all the
Has you please speak right into the microphone?
The boy, the young kid Tyler used to go and see the dog all the time in the truck. And for some reason, they came running out the store, and my friend was petting the dog, and the dog just turned on him when he ran towards me and the dog, you know? So that's how that happened. I don't know if it was just the fast movement of coming out the door that fast, or what. You know, I'm no professional with dogs or nothing, I know nothing. I just know this is my pet and I love him. And
Right. Before we get to questions, is there anyone else wish to testify?
I just wanted to say too that, it is with
Make sure you speak
heavy-
right into the microphone, Ms. Lou.
It is,
Bring it towards you.
it is, I feel bad about the whole thing, but it is my job to protect the community. There's 2 children that live next door where he's living, and I'm afraid that it's gonna happen again and be real serious. We have 6 bites. The roommate lives with the dog, and it's bit him twice.
Right. Upon reading the letter that you presented to us, on the cover it says that a muzzle order is adequate. Do you? It seems like that has been given before and has not been able to be followed. Do you think you can follow a muzzle order, and why haven't that's been followed so far? Please speak right into the microphone, please.
sorry. Yes, I bought him a, what's it called, basket muzzle, I think, the big one, so he can eat and drink and stuff, and he's been wearing that for the past month, well, since I called you. And, there has been no incidents. I don't let him out of my sight. I don't, unless he's home. And I tell Sean if he's home or not, and then when he's home, he has his muzzle on, and I keep him tied in my room in case Sean walks in the house.
Mr. Swenson?
Couple of questions, if I could, please. And first of all, I rescued a German Shepherd that had aggression issues, so I can appreciate what you've had to face. My question is, what's the breed of the dog? It's stated in both a pit bull and a Labrador in the reports.
I know he's a Labrador, but the pit pat, we're not sure of. He looks it.
Okay.
But,
my second question is, you just said you've had him on a nuzzle now. I just want to take what Mr. Zafirovich said a little bit further. You were given these letters and these conditions by the dog officer, but didn't do anything with them and didn't answer the letters that were sent to you. I'm curious as to why that is.
What? I
That
don't
you
know
were
what
given the
letters
order
was
to
it.
muzzle, be on a leash, keep the
Yes,
car
I
windows closed,
signed
keep
that
them in the car,
paper.
keep all of those. Why you didn't follow those, why we should think you would now, and when you received letters from the animal control officer, why you didn't respond to those.
I'm not getting it. Give me a second, please. Well, when he's in the truck, I don't keep the muzzle on him. When he's in my car, inside my car. I did sign that because I thought I had to. I didn't know what else to do. And I was very nervous, but that doesn't. I can't answer that right now, sir.
Mr. Singer, then Ms. Noble.
So, it's hard for me to say this, and it may be a little harsh. I'm an animal lover. I'm a very big proponent of rescue dogs. We've also rescued a dog. I don't like the thought of putting a dog down. But part of the responsibility of owning a dog is leashing it and training it and controlling it. It's not just to protect other people, but to protect the dog itself. The fact that you would let the dog out in the parking lot, I know exactly where Cumberland Farms is. It's a high-traffic area with cars flying by. Not only is letting the dog out, I mean, I understand loving your dog, but there's a responsibility that comes with that. And I know it sounds harsh, but I'm seeing gross negligence and irresponsibility on the part of the owner, and the dog is the one who's suffering. The dog is the one who's going to suffer. I don't know Ann well, but I know enough about Ann to know that she loves animals, and for her to come here and recommend putting a dog down, that's gonna be tough on her. To say that is that, I don't think I'd ever hear that out of her mouth. So, it's one of the comments I have, I'm sure they're harsh, but to me, this is very upsetting. Because this is the owner's fault, I'm sorry, not the dog. The dog suffers. The question I would have is there an option to have the dog removed and rehomed with someone who can handle an 80-pound dog?
Mr. Luke, can you speak right into the microphone?
It's just
I
one
mean,
question.
he's going after people that he knows. Who would want to take him and risk that? I don't know of anybody. Do you know anybody that you could give him to?
And you understand, I hope the reason I'm asking is because obviously I would rather do anything I can to get the dog in an environment where it would not have to be euthanized, but would be with someone who actually could handle an 80-pound dog and train it properly.
Can you speak to my, I'm sorry.
Dogs should not be let loose in parking lots downtown either.
I agree with you.
Yep.
And when the animal control officer and the police department tell you if you want to keep your dog, that you have to leash it, you have to muzzle it, you can't ignore when Ms. Salute tells you, gives you orders to keep your dog. I agree with Mr. Swenson, how you can just, a complete disregard of animal control is not only for the benefit of the neighbors, but for the benefit of the dog itself. So the dog is going to be the one suffering here. I understand you're going to suffer. I'm a dog owner. I have a rescue dog. But to me, it says a lot also that owners would allow this to happen to these animals and put the dog in a position to be euthanized. People should adopt dogs that they can control and that they can manage, and they should learn to train their dogs and take care of them. Not just let them loose in parking lots and that's all I had to say, Mr. Chair.
Chief Charette, did you want to testify?
Yes.
I would ask you to please rise to swear an oath.
I'm not testifying to any facts. I'm speaking regarding the recommendation to perhaps relocate this animal. I will certainly swear.
It's not
if
a
you'd like.
recommendation, it was a question if it's possible.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely, you're right, correct. Whatever you.
I would do it just on the same
Whatever you
side.
prefer, sir.
Please rise, raise your right hand.
Sir.
I state your name.
I, Dan Charette,
Do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that the testimony that I'm about to give
that the testimony I'm about to give
in this matter
in this matter
will be the truth,
will be the truth,
the whole truth,
truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
Acknowledging this oath
Acknowledging this oath
under the pains and penalties
under the pains and penalties
of perjury.
of perjury,
So help me God.
so help me God.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would never, as a public employee, recommend ever relocating any type of dangerous animal. And I just wanted to be sure that, you know, Ms. Salou had that opportunity. I know it's emotional. I have 2 cats and a rescue dog. But I would recommend that we follow Ms. Salou's thoughts and that we err on the side of caution and we go forward with the order to put the dog down.
Ms. Noble?
Thank you. I read that report briefly, what I could read. I wish I'd had more time to read it, but I did read the recommendation from the doctor at Tufts who said that they didn't believe this dog was a candidate for your euthanasia. That being said, I'm not going to sit up here and beat you up. You're getting beat up enough on this. You obviously know you've made a mistake. You've made a grave error. You've put everyone that that dog comes in contact with at risk, and you put that animal at risk. You know you've made a mistake. You didn't follow the rules. So I guess what I wanted to ask you is, why do you have the dog? Is it a therapy dog? Is there some medical reason that you have to have this dog? I'd like to have this clarified before we go forward.
It helps me deal with my depression. The problem I have trouble holding on to the dog is I do have a form of muscular dystrophy, and my muscles don't. I just can't hold them like I'm supposed to.
Perhaps this dog is not the best dog for you, sir.
I didn't think it was going to be this big.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. McGrath and Mr. Singer?
I just have to echo some of my fellow board members, and not to beat you up, Mr. Guerin, or anything like that, but I've known Kelly and Ann Salou, and both of them are animal lovers and dog people. And, you know, they would never, ever come forward if they thought that there was a chance that this dog could be saved. 6 people having been bitten, 2 young children living next door to you, and issues in trying to control a dog. And he has issues himself. I've had pets. This does not come easily to me. This is, you know, we're in a bad position here. You've placed us in a bad position.
Mr. Singer?
I understand how much a dog can mean to you. So, what I would like to ask is just a favor, perhaps of Miss Salou. If we can't save the dog, and I know for some people, they love dogs more than people. You need a dog that you can control. And I understand how much a dog can mean to you and can help you. Miss Salou knows a lot of people, and I'm sure all the shelters. And perhaps she could point you in a direction to help you get another dog that is one you can handle, that you can also assist you in that manner, you can come home to and have that dog happy to see you, but is one that is small enough and calm enough for you to control. And so it won't not only be a danger to your neighbors or other people, or to you either, or the dog itself.
Mr. Swenson?
This is for Ms. Salou and Ms. Flynn. Do you think if this dog were to remain muzzled, it would address one of the major concern?
Ms. Salou?
The one problem with that is he's bitten 2 times your roommate. So how can you keep him muzzled like all the time?
Please speak right into the microphone.
I've been in the process of trying to move, find a new place to live, for that reason alone, because Sean doesn't want the dog in the house, which I don't blame him. So I am in the process of trying to find a new place as of now. You know, it's been going on now for a month.
Mr. Singer?
Again,
Mr.
my
Swenson?
question hasn't been answered. Could the dog being muzzled be a solution? I mean, I'm sorry, the age of the dog again?
5 or 6?
5 or 6.
5.
Could the dog remaining muzzled be a solution?
It has to be put on. The muzzle has to be put on.
The only, I just want to, I'll finish up here. My only thought is seeing the recommendation of the vet or the doctor. My goal was to get through my tenure on the Board of Selectmen without ever having to face this kind of an issue. I've had dogs my whole life. This is a very hard thing. My only erring on the side of caution at all would be that if the dog were to remain muzzled, period, not under these circumstances, period. If that were combined with, taking that into consideration with the recommendation of the vet.
Again, the muzzle has to be put on
I think.
to be foolproof.
I understand
and
that.
I
think
can't
Mr.
say
Garrett
for
at this
sure.
point understands the implication if the muzzle isn't put on and kept on. The other side in balancing this off is the fact that there are 2 young children next door. My greatest fear in the world would be having the chief come in here and tell us about it, or yourself coming in, Ms. Lou, and telling us about an attack that happened on 2 young children next door because we gave the dog another chance.
Mr. Singer?
As much as it pains me and as difficult a decision as it is for me, and I don't even know your dog, but I would have to go with what Ms. Salou is asking. But also understanding how important a dog could be to you, I'm not sure if there are people you know that could maybe help you if you can afford to go through the process of adoption of another dog that you could control, but you could set up GoFundMes, especially in a case like this where if you do suffer depression and you need a dog to help with that, there are people who will donate to these GoFundMe accounts and raise money quickly to help you get a dog that you can control. I understand, Mr. Swenson, and believe me, I feel more than you know the same way, but we are put in a terrible position here, and I really feel bad for this dog. And the problem is, we've seen already where the direction of the dog officers, the animal control officers, has not been followed, which is why it's continued to happen. And I'm worried, and I cannot take that chance of Miss Salou being ignored again and someone else or a child getting bit, because we didn't do what I don't want to, but has to be done.
Is there any more questions from the board? Is there any more testimony? Seeing none, I will close questions and testimony, and I'll call for the deliberations based on the board's.
We have to close a public hearing?
It's not.
I don't think you opened
No.
a public
No,
hearing.
public hearing. And I know this is the toughest job of this board. So, what are the decision of the board?
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I'm going to go on the recommendations of the Charlton Animal Control Officer, Ann Salou, and with the testimony that's been given, and we have the dog euthanized.
We have a motion. Do you have a second?
Yes.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes. 4 ayes, one no.
Very sorry, Mr. Garrett.
That's what it is.
I'm sorry, too.
Please work with,
I don't hold it against you.
I was hoping it would work out.
please work with Ms. Salou on maybe having her help direct you where you can get a dog, a new dog.
I think it'll be a while.
Yeah, recess for a minute. Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
10-minute recess, please, sir.
10 minute?
5 minutes.
5?
5 minutes. We'll go 5
All
minutes.
right, we'll have a
Second.
5-minute recess.
Second.
We'll reconvene at 7:50.
Well,
Okay.
Thank you and welcome back. We'll now go to item number 4 Under new business, is a special permit application for a wireless edge towers LLC. Ms. Craver?
Yes, the planning board has received a special permit site plan submitted to them by Brown Rudrick LLP on behalf of Wireless Edge Towers LLC from North Avenue, Suite 809, New Rochelle, New York, for approval to place an existing 132-foot lattice telecommunications tower with a new 175-foot multi-carrier monopole style tower with appurtenance equipment at 85 Masonic Home Road, the Charlton Police Station. Said property is zoned as Village District. You are asked to review the application and submit any comments to the planning board no later than Wednesday, May 10th. By way of just a reminder, as you know, we went out to bid for a new replacement for a cell tower. We have given them authorization to do the permitting, and this is coming before you here.
Thank you. Does the board have any concerns?
Nope.
Seeing none, we'll take no action on this item. Thank you, Ms. Craver.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to item number 5 under new business, a request for Tootsie Roll Drive by the Knights of Columbus. Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir. The Knights of Columbus Charlton Council 11379 is seeking to conduct a Tootsie Roll Drive to benefit special needs children of the town, state, and nation. They would like to set up a voluntary toll road on Saturday, October 7th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the corner of Main Street and Masonic Home. This request has been forwarded and approved by Chief Charette, contingent upon the following safety precautions. All volunteers must wear bright-colored vests while soliciting donations. Orange cones, traffic cones must be set out on Main Street and Masonic Home Road for a distance of not less than 50 feet on each respective way prior to reaching the toll station. A minimum of 5 traffic cones on each roadway should be put in place at a distance of no greater than 10 feet apart. Signs warning voluntary toll ahead must be erected at both the Masonic Home Road and Main Street not less than 75 feet from the toll collection area. Should the board approve this request, I would ask that you consider including Chief Charette's recommendations into the motion.
Thank you, Ms. Craver. What are the wishes of the board?
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I make a motion that we approve the Tootsie Roll Drive voluntary toll road for Saturday, October 7th, for the Charlton Council 11379, and that they adhere to all of Chief Charette's requests.
Thank you. Motion is second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you. Now, item number 6 under new business, reorganization of the Board of Selectmen. Ms. Craver?
Per the town's bylaw, section 50-7 organization states that the selectmen will, within 7 days after each annual election, shall meet to elect a chairperson and otherwise reorganize, and fix the time and place of their regular meetings. They shall adopt their own rules of procedure. What is the board's wishes?
Thank you, Ms. Craver. We'll go from chairman to vice chairman to clerk, and any changes will take place at our next regular selectmen's meeting.
Okay. Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I make a motion that we nominate, or I nominate Joe Safarovich as chairman.
Second.
Thank you. Nomination's still open. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, I'll close nominations. We have a motion. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
Chair votes aye, motion passes 4-1. Thank you very much, and I am honored to serve again. We'll now move to open nominations for vice chairman.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Singer?
I would move to nominate Mr. McGrath to continue to serve as vice chair.
Thank you. A motion?
Second.
Motion is second. Any other nominations? Seeing no further nominations, I will close nominations. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion passes.
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I nominate Deb Noble as the clerk.
Thank you. We have a motion.
I'll second.
Motion is second. Nominations still open. Any other nominations? Seeing none, nominations are closed. All in favor, any discussion on the motion? Right into the fire. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you. Now,
Thank you.
Thank you.
same time and place as well? Do we need to take a motion on that, Ms. Graver?
If you're not changing anything, I think you'll be fine.
So we'll still meet every other Tuesday as we met, and we'll keep our rules of procedures and our selectmen bylaws.
One request, though, for consideration. I think in the past, we've done our reorgs prior to the first meeting after the election. Before the meetings would start, we do the one of the first items of business was always the reorganization, not later in the meeting.
That's correct.
It just seems to make more sense that we continue the way we've done it, that you have, if we're gonna do the reorganization, that we do the reorganization before we progress with the meeting. So in the future.
In the past that we have any reorganization, any changes take place at the following meeting. I remember 2 years ago, we did it at the end as well.
That actually has been your policy, because the next one is town meeting, so you generally have the same chairman finish up that last meeting before town meeting, before the new person comes on.
That's fine, I'm just saying, historically, when we took the vote to reorg, was usually before the meeting started, not part of the meeting. We would usually meet a little early, 5 minutes early, we would do the reorg and then get into the business.
No, traditionally what we did was the reorganization was the first item on the agenda.
What was the beginning?
It was at the very beginning of the meeting.
Okay.
So just,
Do you wanna-
whether they start immediately or a week later, it was irrelevant, I just think it kind of makes sense to get that out of the way
That's fine.
in the future.
Noted, thank you.
Excuse me.
Would like us to wait?
No, 2 minutes, I'll be right back in the morning.
Goals and objectives.
Goal objectives, yes. So as we reorganize, usually we wait a little longer to do our goals and objectives meeting. But since we have a new member, I would recommend that we start looking sooner than later. And without any objections, I'll instruct the town administrator to request the town administrator to get some dates from the members and from Jeff.
Okay.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to old business, which is the annual town meeting warrant with motions. Ms. Craver?
There you go.
This is the one we have in front of us?
I would go with the one I'm handing.
One you're handing
No,
out?
wait a minute, let's see. I think we would go with the one I'm handing out.
Okay.
So the one that's being handed out?
Yes, sir.
Just in case there's any changes.
All right, fresh.
There
hot.
was,
Okay.
there was some changes.
Okay.
Mr. Craver, do you have an extra one? Or should I give,
Oh, you know what, she may have just
I
made
have.
extras.
Oh.
and-
I think
So did she place them in front of
Yes.
your? Okay, then
Yeah.
those are the same and they're extras.
Okay.
Okay.
Is this different?
No, it is not different,
Do I just
Okay.
have 2
Mary.
copies?
because I just handed you one that, I made some extras in case the, any of the finance committee members came. Okay. So we are scheduled to print the annual town meeting booklet Thursday, May 11th. I have prepared a draft warrant articles and motions for your review. As you know, there are 25 warrant articles. 3 of them are zoning petitions, and 4 of them are from the Personnel Board. At this time, the revenue forecast for FY18 budget is $26,082,688, and the total requested by the departments is $27,762,277, which leaves a $1.6 million deficit. This deficit included the original Dudley Charlton Regional School District's request to increase, for an increase of 9.6%, which was $1.1 million. At this point in time, the total Dudley Charlton School District budget, which includes operating, transportation, and capital overall, has been cut. The Finance Committee has not agreed to provide more than the minimum foundation budget plus the same increase over minimum as last year. Presently, the school's budget was funded at $12,144,962, a $256,099, 2.2% increase over last year's budget. The draft before you tonight adjusts budgets to meet contractual increases and provide some personnel increases. Please see the attached personnel change form request. In the past years, the financial principles In the past years, the financial principles used to prepare this draft budget include current revenues must be generally sufficient to support current expenditures. Debt is not to be used to fund current operating expenditures. Strong reserves are to be maintained. Adequate contingency funds are maintained. Sufficient maintenance and replacement dollars are included to ensure capital facilities and equipment are properly maintained. And the budget strives to maintain the quality of services currently provided. I would like to go over the assumptions page, which will point out the critical changes in the FY18 budget over the over the FY17 budget. The Finance Committee has been reviewing the department requests, and I have adjusted the budget according to their direction. They will be voting to finalize it tomorrow. So, I can go through the budget now, or if you'd like to go through the warrant first. And as you generally do, you take a vote on whether to recommend or to not recommend to town meeting. And I can do the budget first or after, whichever you prefer.
I'd say we go in order.
Go in order?
Yep.
Okay,
Article 1, we don't need to take any action.
correct.
Article 2, no action. Correct?
It's just the town reports, no action.
No action. Litigation?
Actually, for the town reports, there's no action that the Finance Committee makes, but you generally make the recommendation for the town meeting to accept the town reports.
Thank you. So then I'll entertain a motion to
Through the chair.
support Article 2. Yes.
I make a motion that we support Article 2.
Thank you. Motion second. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. And just clarification for everyone involved, anyone at home, we are voting to support the motion for the article as laid out. Article 3?
Article 3 is litigation. The first few articles are housekeeping, so what this article does is that it takes action on the town will take in prosecuting and defending actions or suits for and against the town. The motion is that I move the town council be authorized to prosecute and defend actions for and against the town.
Thank you. What are the board's wishes on the motion?
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I make a motion that we support.
Thank you. Motion and second to support. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Article 4?
Article 4 is an appropriation of funds for unpaid bills of a prior fiscal year. As you know, once the cutoff of the previous year, we cannot pay it without a motion. Going back to town meeting, so we have $117.50 coming from the cable access account. This is to go to Christopher Shute, who has been taping our meetings. There was a lag in getting him his paperwork in, so we just need to take care of that.
Troublemaker. Right, what are the board's wishes with the motion for Article 4?
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I make a motion that we support Article 4.
Thank you. Motion and second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Article 5?
Article 5 is the intra-departmental transfers for FY17, which is this year. The motion is that I move the following sums be transferred and appropriated to the following accounts for any purpose which the funds may be expended from the latter accounts, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen. How did that work? Okay. It's been put in here twice. Okay. So I will fix that piece. Okay. For the purpose of which funds may be expended from the latter accounts, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen or the Chief Procurement Officer to enter into such contracts, including leases, and to take such and other action as may be necessary or advisable to effect the purposes of the vote. Each vote item being considered a separate appropriation. The first two are transferring from assessors encumbered into the assessor property revaluation for the purpose of an overlook appraisal. General insurance, to the general insurance from the Human Resource Director salary. As you know, the town meeting had voted for a director salary, and it took a little longer than we had anticipated to hire. So there's some additional funding in that in that account. So we've had some increased bond costs. We've added a cemetery truck, so we needed to do the additional insurance for that. And we're looking for $2,500. The senior center updates and improvements. The senior center had a warrant article in the past from the special town meeting at 16 to do the senior center carpet. They've done, project is completed. They have some additional funding, and they would like to do is to transfer that over for replacing shades. Contract obligations, the contract settlement, that's $52,000 from the environment legal account. This is, we're still working on our clerical contract, and we have highway out. So we've used some of that funding, and we need to replenish that. Water Betterment Reimbursement Fund to fund residents for water betterment principal paid per the Exxon agreement, and dissolving the balance of the betterment is $450,000, and that is coming from the Water Debt and Reimbursement Fund. The this comes from the $30 million settlement. $8 million was set aside for certain particular purposes. One of the purposes that was voted, as you know, by the Board of Selectmen and the Water Sewer was to put together an application reimbursement process to make sure that no one had betterments, and if they had paid betterments, that we would reimburse them. Water engineering expense. This is for engineering inspections on Route 169 for the new water line. The Water Sewer Commission voted to have McClure Engineering do constant inspections without appropriation. So there is a capital item of Route 169 water design that we can transfer over, and we will be coming back and just discontinuing the rest of that money and let that go by. That was an authorization. Water debt payment, again, the Board of Selectmen and the Water Sewer Commission both voted to pay off the debt so that we'll have no water debt. We'll get that off of the budget. As you know, that has been really crimping the general fund budget because it is not a 2.5, it is within the budget. So that's $2.8 million, and that's been set aside. The Board of Health administrative assistant, there's a salary deficiency based on when the department assistant was hired and the hours that the administrative assistant had been working, so we just want to shift between the two salaries, $3,676. Advisory group expenses, $200 out of environmental. Cemetery expense is to replace propane heater in the cemetery building request for $2,300, and they want to transfer that from the cemetery temporary employees. Municipal building expense, assumed payments for streetlights, so we're just doing a transfer from streetlights to the municipal building expense. It's $40,000. This is due to we're paying the electrical bills, and we're paying that out of that account because we are getting the benefit of the net metering credits. Municipal building expense, electricity, water, $30,000 from gas and diesel. Municipal center, air and electric. Expand air conditioning to town hall, which is $17,000 from the human resource director's salary. And this is, we have planned, as you know, we've been doing phases of increasing the departments that have air conditioning in them. We are doing the north wing offices. We did not plan at this point for the hallway. In a recent department head meeting, it was brought up of how the thermal solar comes in and heats that hallway to it's probably above OSHA requirements. So what we'd like to do is, while we're doing that north wing, to do also the hallway. At this point, we have not done any hallways, but I think it is warranted to do that one at this time.
Thank you. What is the board's wishes for the motion for Article 6?
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I make a motion that we support Article 5.
Thank you.
Five.
Clarification.
Five.
Article 5.
I got it.
I saw the 6, got excited. Any discussion? Seeing none, this is a vote to support the motion for Article 5. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Article 6, town budget.
So you have the budget in the back of this, so let's go through. Let's go to this page here.
That's the summary page? Will
This
this
is
be
my
in the-
assumptions and changes page.
And this will be in the budget, in the budget presentation to town meeting?
Yes. So under revenues, we have state aid, which has increased $59,890 per the governor's. We have not adjusted that yet for the House, and the Senate has not voted on it, so we've just been maintaining what we believe is the minimum. We've level funded local receipts. We've increased ambulance fees by $29,000. It uses $128,515 from free cash. As you know, free cash was only $180,000. Snow and ice deficit, that increased since the last time we've talked. We had new bills come in this week, and it has been adjusted to $178,148.
That's a
Mo-
revenue?
That is the deficit.
Okay.
That you will actually find in your revenue sheet, though. So the reason that it's under the revenues is because that is one of the charges against your revenue. So you
Okay.
have your revenue sheet, you
Yep.
have your expenditure sheet.
Okay.
Millennium was reduced $100,000 in FY17 and will remain constant until the end of the pilot, which is 2020. Tax Prop 2.5 increase is $459,531. New growth is assumed at $220,000. We use, in this budget, there is nothing being used from stabilization fund, as the balance is $867,600. Regarding expenditures, all stipends are level funded. The Finance Committee requested that all boards and committees stipends are reviewed for the fall special town meeting, and I've asked the Human Resource Director to do a survey. You did this a while ago and made some adjustments, so some of the different departments are asking for adjustments, so the Finance Committee is going to follow up on that. Non-union is 1.75 increase, and that is, as you know, by the bylaw, that it is the average of all the contracts that are settled at the time of town meeting. I do not anticipate that there will be any other contracts settled. Union contract increases for police is 2%, and fire is 1.5%. Highway and clerical are 0 increase, those contracts are open. Environmental is increased 30,000 because of the Flint landfill contamination and the reporting and testing that we anticipate to need to do this coming year. And you approved Gary Magnuson's contract on that. Insurance, general insurance has increased 11%, which is 30,000. 16 for the workers' comp and property and casualty. Health insurance has increased 9%, which is about $99,348. Retirement increased 7%, $69,508. Regarding education, the Dudley Charlton Regional School District increase is 2.2% overall, and is $256,099. Bay Path overall, a $7,898 increase, which is 0.5%. Out of district is level funded at this time. We've combined the treasurer collector for a savings of $44,680. We've changed the accountant to a finance director and added $24,300 to the line item, totaling $95,000. The request was for $115,000, and that's been reduced to $95,000 at this time. Increased some expense budgets for inflation and software increases. Town clerk removed the additional election presidential year of $8,000. Increased the town clerk hours from 27 to 32 hours per week at $29.56. So the Finance Committee agreed to add $8,685. Police, the total increase is $38,079, which is a 2% increase. Total department increase is 7. Okay, I'm gonna check that. Fire is level funded. Highway added light equipment operator for $50,000. Shifted $53,000 from streetlights and public works to the utilities and general fund. The library increased expense of $3,592, which is 1.7 in total. Debt reduced, 29,840, which is a reduction of 3.4%. Eliminated the water debt from the general fund, 282,587, and that is being paid with the Exxon settlement and the transfer in the water sewer budget. By the government subcommittees, general administration is the change is 325,312, which is a 6% increase. If you look at number 17, where we shifted 53,000 from streetlights in public works to the general fund, so that is not how much has been actually added, but that has just been shifted over. And that is reflected in the public works, where you see that there's a minus $245, and that is because of that shift also. Culture and recreation increased 6,252. Human education increased 977, which is a 1.9 increase overall. Human services, 2,844, which is a 1%, and public safety is 40,199 for 1.03% increase.
Ms. Graver?
Mhm.
Under expenditures, item number 6 is just a math question. So you have $30,000 for the $16,000 for two things. Should that be 32,000? You have 30,000 and the 16 for
Yes.
two?
Yep. Let me fix that.
Sorry.
That's okay. The next is, you do have a chart. I don't need to go over that unless you wish to. It's the request for the personnel change requests. So I just pulled this out so you could see what the requests were, what the finance committee is recommending at this time,
And will
and not recommending.
Will the 5/6/2017, will that change based on any recommendations from tomorrow night's meeting
The what?
for finance committee? This here.
I'm not anticipating it. Most of what I've put here has been based on the direction of the finance committee.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions on the budget?
What are the wishes of the board then for Article 6 and the motion to accept that budget?
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I make a motion that we accept Article 6 as printed.
Second. Thank you. Motion second for Article 6's motion. Support it. Any discussion? Mr. Swenson?
I want to thank everyone who would put this budget together. We all know firsthand how much effort goes into this budget. We have a problem we're not talking about. When all is said and done, we're approximately $500,000 in the hole. Traditionally, our remedy for that has been stabilization. This board in town took a vote some years ago to adopt a policy that we would not dip into stabilization more than $200,000 per year. The reason that was done was that our accountants have always told us that ideally we should have 10% of our overall budget in stabilization. When I first came here and our budget was in the mid to upper teens, our stabilization was about 1.4 million. We're taking on all of these new things. I'm not saying that they're not needed. I'm not saying that at all. The problem is stabilization is the lowest I have ever seen it, on the risk of going lower by hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we've got no remedy. This is a very dangerous, slippery slope we're heading down, and it's not even really being talked about.
Mr. McGrath?
So, and I have to agree with Rick. We've talked about this since I've been on this board and prior to when I've been on the planning board. We just cannot keep up with what's going on. And it's not through mismanagement or living large, as I like to say. It's just that we are providing services, our school costs have gone up, our new growth is being eaten up by the school budget, and there has to be a remedy.
If I may jump back in, Mr. McGrath is exactly right. This budget, one of the things that we see here, our free cash traditionally has been certified at somewhere between $300,000 and $600,000. It's now at 170, 180,000, 185,000 roughly this year. There's a hit there. We're operating almost a $200,000 deficit in our snow removal fund. That has to be cured. We have OPEB obligations that this board committed to catching up on, that this budget is gonna prohibit us from doing it. Again, I'm certainly not saying any mismanagement or anything of that type. What I am saying is that, my impression is that over the course of the last few years, the whole concept of maintaining and growing stabilization has taken a back seat. David, at this point, was probably the only one here when we went through the crunch of 07, 08, 09, 010, and it was brutal. It was brutal. We got through that. My concern is now that we're quasi through that, is people are saying, let's line up, we got some money to spend now. And again, things like going to a finance director and a human services director, and those are necessary things. I'm not saying those aren't necessary things. My concern is that the way our revenue structure is set up right now, we can't continue this way. After this budget cycle, we are one bad budget cycle away from not having a stabilization account.
Mr. McGrath?
Through the chair. Once again, being a big supporter of the schools. And I'm probably gonna look towards the town administrator just for some numbers. But, Robin, where did we go from where we were for our commitment to Dudley Charlton, and where are we now percentage-wise? Are we at 56 or 58%?
Right now, you have a chart that I provided for you. Here. I didn't add the actual percentages, but it's about 52%.
Okay, and we came from where?
When I came 10 years ago, I think it was about 48%.
And that's all on our backs. We generated how much new growth this year?
I don't have that number in front of me.
I want to say
New
5.
growth assumed at $220,000.
But that was assumed,
But
but
we
we were
did
way
receive more.
better than that, yeah. That new growth went right to the school system. At some point in time, our partners over at the school department, the school committee, they need to help us figure out how we get around this, because the general side of the budget is really taking a whack. As Rick said, we're not gonna be able to meet issues that we have. If we have a bad cycle, as Rick said, we're dead in the water. So.
The
Mr.
one
Singer?
thing in regard to what Mr. McGrath said, which is what nobody wants to say, or what nobody wants to hear. The issue with the schools can be fixed, but at the legislative level. The town of Charlton, and no one wants to say it or hear it, is getting the short end of the stick, I'll put it that way, when it comes to Shepherd Hill. We pay double per student that Dudley pays. The regional transportation's a joke. So if they wanna fix it, maybe it's time Charlton has its own high school. If we're gonna be paying 2/3 of the bill, just pay it all and have our own high school, Dudley wouldn't be able to support Shepherd Hill without us. So legislatively, Boston needs to step up to the plate and make Dudley pay 50%. It shouldn't be Charlton pays double the cost per student that Dudley to go to the same school.
Mr. Swanson?
This is Singer, I couldn't agree with you more.
And that's only a
I
part.
couldn't
It's
agree
not
with
a
you
whole,
more.
it's not, there's a lot
I-
of pieces
I-
to a puzzle, that's one piece.
It is one piece, I couldn't agree with you more. However, the state has shown time and time again that they're not gonna do that. the logistics of building a new, building our own district, I don't know enough about it to offer any kind of an intelligent opinion on it. I just don't know enough. And I'm certainly not here to be a prophet of doom. And I'm certainly not here to say anyone isn't doing their job. And it's heavy lifting getting this budget done. It's very heavy lifting. But my concern is, again, just that we have not been paying enough attention to what's happening to our stabilization account, what's been happening with our free cash. You know, we increased ambulance fees by 29,000, which is a great thing. And that shows that getting more people on board, having the ambulances running is working. However, we're also faced with the proposition that in a few and a half years, we have 9 firefighters over there that the grant's just not gonna be there for. We're looking, and that may or may not be the case. There may be renewed grant, but again, I'm not here, having read this over the past couple of days and thought about this, I'm scared to death. I mean, in 08, 09, 010, we knew where we were. We knew how bad it was. My concern right now is that we don't realize and give enough attention to the fact how rough this budget is. I mean, it's conceivable that after this year, after this budget cycle, stabilization could be under $500,000. Possible. Again, I don't, you know, the school has come down substantially in their what they're asking for. I mean, we're underfunding our schools. We're giving a little bit more than what the state wealth formula says we have to give, which is all good. But we're not giving them near what they need. And I'm just concerned that this is going down the slope that we're not paying, I'm throwing myself in this, aren't paying enough attention to where we're going with stabilization, where we're going with, you know, how certified free cash is impacting us, the growth that we're seeing in the schools, and as residential growth starts to grow again, you know, residential growth is a drain on the tax base. It doesn't help the tax base, so I'm just putting my concerns out.
Noted. Mr.
Chair.
Singer?
Just in response to Mr. Swenson, and there are points that we disagree on and there are points that we agree on. As far as the firefighter goes, we won't be stuck with 9 firefighters. Either the grant's renewed and they're funded, or we don't have the 9 firefighters. That was part of the agreement. So we won't be paying for 9 firefighters. And the chief was confident that we would get the grant renewed, and if that's the case, we have them. If not, they were hired with the knowledge that they could be gone. To a point Mr. Swenson made, I'm maybe the only selectman here that actually has kids in the school. I'm very concerned about the schools, and I want our kids to have the best education they can get. However, there are questions that I think the school committee is gonna have to answer, the school administrators are gonna have to answer, not just in regard to why Charlton is still to this day paying double per student that Douglas, but why the school population has gone through the floor. Costs have gone through the roof. Whether you go back 1 year ago to 10 years ago, there's a discrepancy of anywhere from 100 to 400 fewer students today than a year to 10 years ago. So you would think that when our school population is going through the floor, there are going to be cost increases, obviously, that with anywhere from 100 to 400 fewer students, depending on what year you look at, with costs exploding, maybe we still be level with hundreds of students. But no, you've got, I think, it might be around 100 less students than last year and 400 less students than maybe 8 to 10 years ago. Yet the school costs have gone through the roof. So I think also the schools have some explaining to do, school committee and administrators, as to why is it when you have so many, and that's not an institute, it's not 10 fewer students, that's 100, that's 400. Explaining why there are that many less kids in the school, and yet your costs are going through the roof and exploding. That's just something that I think they're gonna have to answer to the people of the town, whether it's Charlton or Dudley.
Mr. Swenson?
We agree on both of those points more than what you may think. I agree. We talked about when we had the firefighters, that should that grant go away, that we would have to make those adjustments. So, the schools is a different thing. I don't have kids in the schools. I did have kids in the schools. You know, a lot of, as you well know, a lot of it's the wealth formula, which the state mandates that this is what you will pay, period. One other thing that we have to throw on here, now this will probably be the last thing I throw in before I yell about the sky falling, is that when Millennium was first built, their pilot was, I believe, $500,000 a year, at least $300,000, if not $500,000 a year. That's down now to $100,000 a year to the town, and in 3 years, 2.5 years, that ends, period.
It ends, but then it goes back onto the tax rolls unless we negotiate another.
We'll
well,
see.
True. And that's why the
We'll-
Millennium
we'll-
Committee
we'll-
has been
We'll see
meeting
how
to talk
that
about.
works. The
about
best
the
thing that
next
could
steps.
happen for us would be if it were to go on the tax rolls. That would absolutely be the best thing. But again, not to beat the dead horse that I've already killed a couple times over, but my concern is the long-term financial stability and viability of the town.
So, through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
Rick, thank you very much for speaking about the unwanted guest that's in the room. I think that the town administrator has been working on bringing us up to speed on what's going on with the school committee, or the school funding. If she could say a couple of words about that, please.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me.
Just to make a couple of remarks, and I'll start with the financial report that you're talking about. We had our regular kickoff, school kickoff with Selectmen Finance Committee, Dudley, Charlton, and the two towns and the school district. And we talked about some of the trends. We had another meeting and they talked about overrides. There was noticeably some information that not everyone had the same information. I came back and contacted Mark Abrams, who is kind of the school foundation guru, and asked him some questions. I spoke with the chairman of the finance committee and got authorization to have Mark put together a report. And Mark is someone who does workshops. He actually trains school business managers. He is putting a report together for us on Dudley Charlton School District, explaining the foundation budget, where the other monies come from, addressing some of the thoughts that you have, Mr. Singer, about the discrepancy, to explain why. I've seen the draft he's starting to put together. I think that'll be very helpful for not only you, but the town of Dudley as well as the school administration. We were actually hoping to have him come and do a presentation tomorrow night at the finance committee, but the school committee is meeting, so we're going to defer that until after town meeting. As you know, quite often when we meet with the school committee in Dudley, we have a conversation about there's a need for additional funding, and once we get past town meeting, it just dies until the next year, and then it's too close to the budget. So what my hope is that once we get through this budget, that we are able to get Dudley Charlton School District, the town of Dudley, and ourselves, and as well as residents who are interested in the budget, to come and understand, do a full presentation for everyone, so everyone has the same understanding on what school foundation budget means and what the differences are between Dudley and Charlton and why the costs are different and separate. So I'm hoping to have that right after. We have 6 months to work on that, and if there is any solutions to bring towards the special town meeting, that we try to do that. The other thing I want to point out, and I don't know if it's comforting or not comforting, but there may be some systemic reasons why we had such low free cash. If you remember, we've gone through a transition. We've had 3 of our major financial people retire and leave. We've consolidated. We've operated without a collector for a long time. So collections are not exactly where we would like them to be, so that would be reflective in free cash being lower. We also had, because we did not have free cash certified at this last special town meeting, we used more than we generally would use for transfers to do some small capital items. We still maintained our infrastructure and our investment in our infrastructure by using departmental monies that were left over. Because generally at special town meeting, we used free cash. Since we didn't have that, we still maintained our commitment to our infrastructure, which resulted in less free cash being received at the end of the year. So there was a couple of things that kind of contributed to having free cash lower. I think that adding the finance director, getting all the positions that have been open filled, and getting this team up and running, my hope is that we will kind of right the ship and we will not have some of the issues that we had this past year.
One thing I do want to say, I want to thank Ms. Craver and the Finance Committee for the fact that first year, and over 7 years since I've been on the board and finance committee, is that we haven't used stabilization to fund the budget. Granted, you could say that we are using free cash,
Yeah.
but as you said, you know, I would say this is probably one of those worst years that we're talking about, as Ms. Graver said.
Through the chair.
But I still understand the systemic need and the built-in deficiencies that we have. We also invested in several positions, so.
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I understand what Mr. Swenson's alluding to.
Yep.
And
We have
that
a
is.
$500,000 hole.
Yeah, and that there might be a motion on the floor at town meeting to fund the school committee at a higher rate. That is at our peril. With stabilization where it is, and I am a great supporter of the school system, the work that goes on over there, but I'm gonna have to say that this year, I'm not going to be on board, and I will speak against that if it does come up, so.
Again, just to be clear, my goal isn't to be the prophet of doom, my goal isn't to criticize anyone. I mean, I've lived this budget for many years now, and I know the work that goes into it, and I appreciate every bit of work that goes into it, and, you know, Ms. Graver and FinCom over years have found rocks to look under that I didn't even know were there, so I'm giving all the credit in the world to both FinCom and the town administrator on getting this put together. But again, my sense is what I want to do more than anything else is bring an awareness to the board that I think we as a board, the buck does stop here, we as a board need to be more attuned to where we are with stabilization and long-term implications of that stabilization. We did use some for some capital items where we didn't have free cash certified, that changed. We saw where free cash came in this year, there were reasons why it was. But I don't want us to get into this position where we assume, well, we'll get $500,000 from free cash. Because it just could as easily not happen. You know, we're gonna have to make up, we'll see what happens when Millennium goes off, but I just felt that I needed to bring the point that we as a board need to focus on more where we are with stabilization going forward. Instead of just like the little bank book that we keep under our socks in the drawer that we dip into if need be.
Are we still going to keep that in?
I'm not telling you. There's not enough in there to go after anyways.
I completely agree, Mr. Swenson. I would recommend that be one of our major focuses and one of our major goals for our upcoming goals and objectives meeting, is to take a look at that and prioritize that.
And I do want to remind the board that you did, in your community compact, one of the 3 grants that you chose was a financial management review. So we have that done. It is sitting on my desk. You have not taken it up yet, but part of that is because we've been waiting to fill all the seats so that we can get our finance team on board and then start meeting with you. So my guess and my recommendation would be, when you do your goals and objectives, that be one of your goals, is to work with the finance committee and we review all the finance policies and procedures and make sure they're in place and being followed.
So with that, we still have a motion and a second on the floor for support of the motion for Article 6. Any further discussion? Seeing none, move to a vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Chair votes aye, motion passes. Article 7, Water Department Budget Enterprise Fund.
Article 7 and 8 are the water and sewer department budgets. They are balanced. For the water department, you will see under revenue that the water capital and debt fund, this would be the money that it will be paying the water debt until we can pay all of it off. So we've taken this out of, that's coming from the 8 million. The water superintendent fund, as you know, when we negotiated the 8,250,000 was negotiated for the purpose of providing the Water Sewer Commission a high-level administrator, water superintendent that could work on developing a consecutive water source as well as assisting them in looking for our own water source. So I know that they have been reviewing that job description and hopefully that will be completed at their next meeting.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, question?
Mr. Singer?
Just, I want to make sure we're accurate here. Under the FY18 water, 16, 17, 18, voted, department request and finance committee recommended. you'll see under salaries and wages, 13,000, 13,000, 113,000. So make sure that that's,
I think we've got an extra penny, one there.
Thank
Fix
you.
that, thank you. No,
Mrs.
I'm
Craver,
sorry, that actually is
Isn't that for
correct.
the $1,000 from Exxon?
Thank you,
so
yes,
we are
that is
jumping
correct.
literally from 13,000 to 113,000.
Yes,
Okay, and then below that, under engineering, we are actually going from 6874 to 100,000. I just want to make sure
Which
that
one
these
are
are
you
correct.
Yes.
okay, so the salary, that is the 100,000 that you'll see that I just spoke about in the, revenue, the
Okay.
additional 100,000, so that is the water superintendent. Being added, the 13,000 is the split between the two present staff members. As you go down for engineering, that 100,000 is the reimbursement in the IMA. That was agreed, that's, Exxon will be reimbursing us for engineering,
Ms.
so.
Craver, actually noticing that if you look at the salaries, it goes to 113,000, and then if you look at the second to last row on the next page, we have water superintendent fund, so we have that twice?
No, one is in revenue, one is in
Oh, okay,
expenditure.
never mind. Alright. What is the board's wishes with Article 7 in the motion?
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I make motion, we support Article 7.
Second.
Thank you. Motion second. Discussion? Seeing none, I move to a vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion passes.
Okay.
Article 8, Sewer Department Budget Enterprise Fund.
Yes, sir, this was submitted by the sewer department. It is balanced.
Thank you. What are the wishes
Through
of
the
the board?
chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I make motion that we approve Article, support Article 8 as written.
Second.
Thank you. Motion second. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Article 9, PEG Access and Cable Budget.
As you know, we've with the legislation with cable, it's been a moving target. We've had it out of the budget, and then one year we put it in the budget, and then new legislation came out and said, no, you need to make it an enterprise fund. So it's back as a separate enterprise fund. We have been able to meet the requests, as recommended by Finance Committee. The only changes are the salary increases.
Noted.
I would recommend support.
Thank you. What are the wishes of the board?
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I make motion that we support Article 9.
Thank you. A motion and second discussion. I know that in the past that there's been concerns about being transparent, and I appreciate that we're laying out all the different line items here.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? Well, thank you. Seeing none, I'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Article 10, transfer funds to and from stabilization account.
Yes, the only change we're doing with stabilization is adding 70,000, which is required from the pilot.
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I make motion, we support Article 10.
Second.
Thank you. Motion second. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Article 11, capital items and related contracts.
Yes, so generally, we fund this at special town meeting. We were holding this and put it on as a placeholder because we were waiting for the bids to come in for the archival storage. The bids came in last week, higher than we had anticipated. We had hoped that it would be $50,000 to maybe $100,000, and we would be able to make a transfer. They came in at $250,000 over what we had anticipated. As you know, we already have $250,000, so the cost came in around $500,000. So what we're recommending is to pass over this article indefinitely, and we will work to either revise and down the scope or talk to the low bidder and see if they will hold the bid until fall town meeting. And that will be taken up by the municipal building committee, and we'll come back to you.
Thank you. What wishes of the board?
I make motion that we pass over this indefinitely.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is second. Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Article 12, cemetery perpetual care.
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I make motion that we support Article 12 as written.
Thank you. Motion second. Discussion? Seeing none.
Just for the purpose of people who may be watching this, trying to find out what's on the warrant. This is cemetery the funds that they bring in from the trust funds, from individual persons, to take into and accept as perpetual care.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Article 13, general bylaw revolving funds.
This was submitted by, we put this together because the law has changed. The revolving funds do not need to be on the warrant voted every year for an authorization. We can make it a bylaw, so that's what we're doing now.
Thank you. What are the wishes of the board?
Through the chair,
Mr. McGrath?
I make a motion we support Article 13 as written.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is second. Any discussion? This is part of the municipal modernization bill, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Seeing no further discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Article 14, personnel bylaw amendment classification plan update.
Yes, sir. There's been several changes to positions, and this is making adjustments in the personnel bylaw. By deleting the town collector and the town treasurer, and adding a treasurer-collector, adding the assistant human resource director, the human resource director, a water sewer superintendent, and a finance director.
Thank you. What is your board's wishes for Article 14?
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I move that we support Article 14 as written.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Article 15.
I'd also, just on this article, like to remind people that these are not necessarily new positions. We've consolidated, we've transferred. So the person who is now the human resource director was the assistant treasurer. That's been given to someone else, a present employee. Treasurer collector, we've eliminated one staff. The finance director is the town accountant with some added funding, so. And the
And
water
added
sewer.
responsibilities.
And added responsibilities, and the water sewer superintendent will be paid for the first couple of years through monies from Exxon.
Thank you. Article 15, personal bylaw amendment. Article 3, salary plan.
Yes, the next couple, well, this one and another one is being proposed by the department heads. They are under the the personnel bylaw as non-union personnel. As you know, there is a bylaw that states that they will be provided the average of all of the contracts that are settled at the time of town meeting. They are asking to adjust that to say they would be provided automatically provided equal level to the average plus 1% higher.
With a maximum?
With a maximum of 2.5%.
Mr. Singer, you have a face.
Yeah, I think that's crazy. Sorry, say it like it is.
What is the wishes of the board?
Through the chair,
Mr. McGrath?
I make a motion that we support the article as written.
Your motion, do you have a second? Ms. Graver, question? No, we have a motion and a second. Discussion, Ms. Graver. Has personnel board supported this motion?
Personnel board is sponsoring the motion.
Sponsoring the motion?
The department heads went to the personnel board. They worked with the personnel board to make adjustments to the language.
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
Robin, has the human resource director been involved with this also? Or has it
Yes.
just been the personnel board?
She's been there, yes. She
Okay.
was at the meeting that the department heads went to.
And Ms. Craver, what was the reasoning given by the department heads for requesting 1% higher than the average of the union, which we've been doing for the past number of years?
The union, some unions may get more one year and another year. They believe being in the average is that they're falling behind. And that's basically it.
Ms. Noble?
Has there been any actual evidence to show that they're falling behind? Are there concrete numbers to show that their salaries are falling behind?
I do believe they brought something to the personnel board. And I think that there are some salaries that could be adjusted.
Mr.
There
Singh?
is one that is in the budget to be adjusted this year.
All right, and have we surveyed other towns to see what they're doing?
They do not do this.
They do not.
They do not have an automatic increase.
Okay.
The Board of Selectmen would vote each year on what they were going to give to them.
Okay.
Mr. Singer?
I think that it's dangerous. I think you could also wind up where you have a certain group of people that could, for all intents and purposes, wind up getting a higher percentage raise than any negotiated unions, which then could cause, I think, more problems for us than we realize when we come back to union contract negotiations. I think we had a system in place. You know, if we're gonna do an average with the unions, that's fine. Or, as what just came up from the conversation from Ms. Lowell's questions, if we're gonna have the board have the ability to do a wage increase yearly for non-union contracts. But I think putting one group in a position to get the average of everyone else, plus another percent over that, I think it's suddenly unfair to all the unions. And then, you know, they could automatically get more money than everybody else if they do all the negotiating and pay for all the lawyers. And it could put us in, I think it's still an untenable situation come contract time with the unions.
Two arguments put on the table is one, that the unions have to bargain, and they have to, in most cases, make concessions for any changes, increases, and whatnot. Argument two is, against the first point, is they don't have a chance to negotiate.
Unions give concessions.
Correct, that was my first point.
So we're going to automatically give an average plus potentially 1% more with no concessions. So again, we're going to automatically just throw money at a group of people that could be potentially more than unions who are giving concessions, and they're giving no concessions.
Before I recognize,
Can I say something? I just want to address Selectman Noble's question.
Mhm.
There's one other thing. We did do a classification plan study in 2015.
Yes.
And there were recommendations for changing some of the department heads. And the selectmen were committed to putting everyone where they should be, and they did make some adjustments back then also. So we did find that there were some department heads that needed adjustments, like our council on aging, and they made those adjustments.
Okay.
So if I could just finish that comment was, so I think we suddenly have ourselves in a situation where it's now potentially unfair to all the unions to do all the negotiating, give up all the concessions, get whatever deal they can get, and now another group gets what they get or more and gives up nothing. I think it's not a fair system, and it's not fair, I think, even the raises that they would be getting potentially more than the unions. I think fair would be an average of what the unions get.
one idea to put out there, just for food for thought, is to limit this for 1 year or 3 years, kind of like a union contract. So we can have this in place for 3 years, see how it works, see what happens, and we can revisit it at a later time. Ms. Noble?
I'm concerned that by doing this, we create animosity between union and non-union members here at the town level. Union members pay dues. They belong to a union for a reason. They're hoping to get the very, best salary that the union can fight for, as well as other perks and benefits, whereas somebody who's not in a union, who is not paying the dues, will reap the benefits in a way of having that guaranteed salary increase. So it could create some animosity between union and non-union members. I just wanted to throw that out there and make sure that people were aware of it.
Chief Charette, I see you eagerly leaning forward.
Patiently.
Patiently, yes.
I believe the chief was part of the committee, yes?
Yes. I was part of the group, and the very first thing we did was reach out to all the communities around us and did a survey. This was actually a very comprehensive survey, and what we really did is just boiled it down to one or two things that we thought were appropriate and reasonable. Very often, in the case of the unions, they not only get the raise, but I've been on both sides of that table many times, and what happens is the discussion goes something like, well, what can we do instead of money? And there are other things given that typically don't happen with department heads. In several circumstances, police, fire, DPW, they'll all tell you that as you do get promoted out of the union, you lose things. So you actually go backwards. So I think this is actually a very, very reasonable way to at least get back some of what you lose monetarily when you do that. It recognizes the fact that usually the people who are getting promoted have been good employees for a long time for the community. And it goes back to the part that, yes, we don't bargain, and we don't get all those other little things. DPW talked about things like they get paid for different licenses, things like that. There are certain benefits that the police chief doesn't get, certain benefits that the fire chief doesn't get. So this is really a very, very small slice of that to try to balance that out. Thank you.
Mr. Singer, then Mr. Swenson.
Couple of questions or points. One is, every time I hear neighboring communities, I want to know which ones.
Sure.
Because to me, Sturbridge Charlton is not apples to oranges. I'm sorry, it's apples to oranges, it's not apples to apples. Charlton Dudley, apples to apples. Also, part of my problem, or one of the issues I have with this is, as you brought up, depending on where you are in the union to where you move to out of the union, you might go backwards. Let's say you use police as an example, and I don't think the officers have a less friendly police, supporter, but the reality is, you may lose detail work, right? If you go out of the union to a management role, and you can lose a ton of detail money. But you could be a patrolman who moves up from patrolman to sergeant to lieutenant or chief, and the pay goes up exponentially. So you're making more money, and there are other benefits that come along with that you don't have in the union. So those are decisions people have to make. Do I want to go for management and maybe lose all my detail hours? Or do I want to stay with it? I mean, these are decisions that they make. But when we go with what's in here, this board also loses the ability to negotiate with, employer-employee. If we have the ability to say, okay, with certain people who are non-union, we're going to negotiate with them based upon performance, a little give and take, there are still concessions that might be given. And when they want to negotiate, there are things non-monetary that could be negotiated into those agreements as well. But when we automatically set it up like this, we've lost all power as far as employer-employee. And I agree with Ms. Noble, I think it's really setting us up for potential problems with the unions. Not only that, but the relations with unions and non-union employees.
Mr. Swenson?
A couple of quick points. We don't have contracts with our department heads, which kind of takes away some of our abilities to negotiate with them, because we don't have a starting point other than what they're making now. I think the chief makes a valid point. The other thing I would add to address Ms. Noble's point, which I think is a great point, but I think you also can run the risk from the other side of building that resentment and animosity between management and department heads towards the employees, because they're seeing them getting benefits through negotiation and raises and such that they're not able to take part. So I think that can, I'm not dismissing your point, but I think it can come either way.
Mr. McGrath?
Through the chair. I'm a firm believer in tasking people to do a job and then allowing them to do the job and then to give us a recommendation. I believe that we've tasked the personnel board to do their job. They have done their job. They have taken a look at everything, and we have a lot of good and smart people there. We have a new human resources director that also sat in on this. I'm sure that the town administrator knew exactly what was going on and has weighed in on this. So, in my opinion, this has been vetted by the people who are probably a lot smarter about it than me. And then they've come to the conclusion that we need to do something. Now, do we put a time limit on it to see how it works out? I'd be a fan of doing that and see what happens, but like I said, we've tasked people to do something. They've given us their opinion, and that's why I voted for it.
I think if that's the way the board votes to go, I don't think a bylaw amendment is the way to go then.
I was just going to simply point out to Mr. Swenson's point about department head contracts. As we go through the changes that we're going through now, growing pains or what you want to call it, as far as the changes we're making, that is certainly something that can be part of our future changes, and I think should be.
I believe that would have to come through a bylaw change. It's a major change in how the town does its business. That's
the only
we
department.
just don't vote that as a board.
Right. But it doesn't mean it's not something that we should be pursuing.
The only department head we have a contract with is the town administrator, correct? Is that a special bylaw or legislation that gives us that authority? And that doesn't extend to police chief or any other department head?
That would extend to the police chief, fire chief, and town accountant. But you have chosen not to do that and leave them under the personnel bylaw to keep everything even.
But should we do that, would still only apply to a portion of our department heads.
Well, perhaps if you made this start, that would give you a couple of years to review that process and look at it under that light.
One thing I did notice, I went to one of the personnel meetings, personnel committee meetings, and they mentioned surrounding towns, including Dudley, Auburn, Oxford, some of the comparable ones, and that non-unions were making 2.5%, 3% every year. Of course, this one does cap it at 2.5%, so that's the highest it could go. Let's say the average of unions is 1%, that means the non-union would go up to 2%. Mr. Swanson?
My last point on this is that my experience has been that we have great department heads in this building, in this town. These people are committed, they're conscientious, they're honest, they're hardworking. I'm speaking for myself, I'm taking that into my consideration when I make my vote.
Ms. Craver, question. Would this increase be reflected this year? This budget?
Good question. I don't believe,
'Cause
I think they're hoping for it to. Let me see when it takes place.
looking into your summary, I believe you had non-union at 1 3/4.
Yes, I do not have it in there now.
So that would throw off calculations for budget.
We would have to add in, yes. They're anticipating that they will get it July 1st because it will have voted and gone into effect in May. So yes, we would make the adjustments.
Do you feel comfortable you can find that money?
We will do what we can, yes. If
Mr.
that's the will of the people, that's what we will do.
Mr. Singer?
So we'll just go back to what Mr. Swenson brought up earlier. We'll just keep throwing the money out, more and more people, that's fine. Don't come to me and talk to me about money being tight, and we're just gonna start throwing money at people. I don't wanna hear any complaints, and I don't wanna hear anything about Prop 2.5 overrides, because we're just throwing the money at people. I don't know a single person, personally, who's gotten a cost of living increase or a raise in 5 or 10 years outside of unions and town employees. I don't know a single person in this town, personally, who's seeing their wages go up. But we're gonna keep just giving our employees more and more money.
Mr. Singer, I would please ask to make sure comments remain respectful.
They are.
Right.
It's a fact. You can argue all you want, but you can't change the fact. So the fact is, we're gonna sit here and have conversations about money that the town does or doesn't have. And now we're gonna sit here and agree to give a class of employee more money, potentially, than we're gonna give unions, who negotiate for it and give something back in as far as concessions. I just think it's a bad idea. I understand where it comes from, and I understand the heart behind it. And I just think it's a bad idea, and I just think, from the taxpayer's perspective, I don't see how we can support that. If you want to do some kind of a trial, I think that you should come up with something better than this. Just an opinion.
Mr. Swenson?
I think I've historically not been one to throw money around. I think there's a difference between throwing money around and investing in the greatest asset we have as a town, which is our people. I think we are spending money out on contracts. We're spending money on creating new positions at executive levels at 6-figure salaries. And I see the department heads starting to fall behind. And I'm not saying it's a lot. I don't have information to comment on an amount. But I believe they are. Their perception is definitely that they are. So I think this is why while I could sit through here and look and probably come up with other places that I could be more conservative, I think this is a fairly small investment, again, in what I see as our greatest asset.
Mr. Singer, then Chief Surratt.
Just a quick point that I never said we don't have the best employees around. I believe we do.
Not suggesting you did.
I believe we do, but I will also point out that there's a reason that so many people want to work in Charlton and not one of our neighboring communities and one of the other communities around. The fact of the matter is because the people who work here have the best, probably the best working conditions. And I will say that as a complete package, pay, benefits, work environment, have the best work conditions of any town in the area. They want to come here. Now, sure, if they say, well, I'm not gonna get a higher raise than everybody else, so I wanna leave, they have that right. I don't want to see them go. But they're great employees. But make no mistake about it, they are extraordinarily well compensated and very well appreciated in this town.
Chief Charette?
I was really proud this evening when the folks were here from the new company coming in, the brewing company. And the gentleman was so anxious to say how every one of the boards he's worked with, every one of the people that he's talked with, the fire chief, the building inspector, all of the inspections that have come through have just been fantastic. That doesn't happen everywhere. You've got some really, really good people. And as I said, when we did this survey, we looked at a lot of communities. And we didn't go trying to grab everything that was out there. It was nothing like that. In the discussion with the employees, they want to keep it very reasonable. They want it to be appropriate and certainly didn't want to go beyond, what the community could do. So you've got fantastic people, absolutely, sir.
Mr. McGrath?
Through the chair. I think that as we've seen positions change and the money that we've had to put forth to bring new people in to the positions, I think speaks to the fact that we have fallen behind in certain areas. And some of the increases that we've had to do, and I'll refer to the town administrator, to fill these positions, is pretty, it shows that there's a need to do something like this. You and I agree on a lot of things, David, but I'll disagree on this one just because I think that historically what we've seen with transition in some department heads here, and what we've had to do to bring a new department heads in, we've been behind the curve a little bit.
Mr. Singer?
And Mr. McGrath is right, we agree on a lot of things. This is one we will disagree on. We don't disagree, I think, on wanting to take care of our employees, or even department heads. I think in this case, it's not a difference of the what, it's just the how. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't be working with our department heads. That's not my concern. My only concern is the manner that we're doing it. I just don't like the way that we're doing it.
Another point of information, Article 16 and Article 17 also deal with the non-unions and benefits. Article 16 would be a policy where it would increase probation from 6 to 12 months, and Article 17 would add longevity. So, just to keep a broader perspective when thinking about this. Ms. Kramer?
I was going to ask if we could take 2 minutes, just break from this conversation, give our student select person an opportunity to do her report and let her go home, because she has school tomorrow.
I go to bed literally at like 8 o'clock, so this is a big night for me.
Yes, absolutely. If there's no objection from the board, we'll go to Ms. Chupka's student select person report.
So today was the AP Calculus AB or BC exam. Tomorrow, May 10th, is the AP English Language exam. May 11th is the AP Statistics exam. May 16th and 17th is grade 10 Mathematics MCAS. May 17th is also the first annual Central Mass GSA Forum from 6:30 to 8:30 in the auditorium. And May 20th is the junior and senior prom for Shepherd Hill students at the DCU Center from 6 o'clock to 11 o'clock.
Thank you, Ms. Chupka. Is there any questions for our student select person?
Thank you.
You can go home.
Thank you.
Have a great night. So we have a motion and a second for Article 15. Is there any further discussion? the
Is,
previous discussion about a sunset date or a
that
period.
had to be done as an amendment?
You could withdraw the motion and give that, or you can do an amendment.
So, there's two ways I could see myself voting yes instead of voting no on this, because I'm gonna vote no as it's written. And like I said, it's not a question of disagreeing with anyone on what we should be doing, it's just a question of how we do it.
Mm-hmm.
If it had a sunset clause in here, so we can see how this went as a trial, I would support it. Without it, I won't.
Would you like,
The other potential change, that if you don't wanna have the sunset clause, that if we remove the line about 1% higher. So if they want cost of living increases, but we give them the average that the unions and that everyone else is getting, I think is very fair. They get compensated, they're gonna get their increases. But it's in line with what we're giving as the town.
That's what they have now.
yeah, that would not change
It's
anything
not
from the.
changing a thing.
No, yes it is, because you're removing the 1% higher line.
Right, but what I'm saying is you're not, removing that 1% higher line is gonna put them right back where they are today.
Through,
The
Actually,
only
it'd be
change in
worse.
this is that they're getting the percent higher.
Hold on, Mr. McGrath.
through the chair. What would be a reasonable sunset date to see how this works out?
I would recommend 3 years like all the other contracts. That seems like a reasonable time frame.
Okay, can I amend my motion?
That's what will get this done, yes.
Yeah.
I will amend my motion to include the wording that there is a 3-year sunset date on this bylaw.
So you're, and would you amend your second, Mr.
So-
Swenson?
Okay, so wait a minute, let me think about this. So the sponsors personnel board, they've already taken a vote on the language.
Hmm.
And I wrote in the motion, which is to approve Article 15 as accepted, as printed. I've not gone back to the personnel board on exactly what they would like for a motion. So are you recommending that I go back to the personnel board and make the recommendation that they add in that?
Ask them.
And ask them if they will add a
Can't make
sunset?
them, but we can ask.
And what you could do is task me to go back to the personnel board and ask them if they're okay with a sunset clause. If they're okay with a sunset clause, I can put that in the motion when I print the booklets.
Mhm.
If they say no, you could take both of these motions. So if they say no and it as is, I can let them know, well, they're recommending or they're not recommending, but they're only recommending based on, a sunset clause.
And so if they were to
So
get,
I'm not comfortable just changing their
So-
motion.
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
Could we ask the town administrator to go back to the personnel board and ask them if they would be amenable to us changing this to have a sunset clause on it for 3 years to see how this works out?
We can ask, is that a motion?
I think
Mr.
we
Graber, do you
would
need
I
a
have to
motion?
make it a motion?
I think you would make it a motion.
To accept,
To do that first, and then I think you would also make a motion and give me direction on what I'm doing for your recommendation if they choose not to. So
Okay.
I think there's two pieces to this, because I've gotta print the books before you meet again.
so the first motion would be to direct the town administrator and ask a personnel board to see if they will support a sunset clause, and we would support
3-year
that.
sunset.
And
What
we,
about the motion and second you already have on the floor?
okay, fair enough, there is a motion second.
So
We
withdraw it?
We withdrew a motion, will you withdraw your second?
You amended your motion.
I did amend it, I can withdraw it.
You can do whatever you want. I won't amend my second, but I will withdraw it.
Okay.
Okay, I'll
So-
withdraw it.
So
Okay.
the original motion and second has been withdrawn.
Correct.
I'm sorry.
How's that, Mary?
She'll be relieved.
I'm running for another cup of coffee at this point.
So then, the motion on the floor, Mr. McGrath, is then that
That we ask
Planning board.
the
I mean,
personnel
personnel
board.
board.
personnel board to change their recommendation to include a 3-year sunset clause as a trial on this.
and we would recommend that motion, we would recommend, support that motion.
That's correct.
Do we have a second? We will also, after this, take up the fact if they say no.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion?
so that basically in 3 years it's gone. If it doesn't work, it's gone.
Correct.
If it does work, we can simply renew it.
That's correct, and that's the first part of addressing Article 15, and supporting the motion that they would come forward with the sunset date. Does everyone understand the motion that we're voting on?
Yes, just so you know. you got my point about the 1% not being a change. Because you're already getting a guaranteed raise, that's fair enough.
So,
We'll
see,
find this.
any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm gonna vote no on this.
Chair votes aye, motion passes 4-1. And now I'll entertain a motion to accept Article 15 as printed without the sunset clause. If,
I'll make that motion.
if Personnel Board does not go with the sunset clause.
I'll second it.
Yeah, if they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Even if they
Either
don't
way,
vote it, I'll stay.
that's the way I feel.
okay. So just to make sure the motion and second on the floor is to support the motion for Article 15 without the sunset clause after asking Personnel Board if they support the article.
Correct.
If they say no.
If they say no. All right, any discussion? Does everyone understand the motion?
We beat it to death.
We have. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Chair votes no, motion passes 3-2.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay.
Article 16, Personnel
Artic-
Bylaw Amendment.
Article 16 is a policy, let's go down, wait a minute. Article 16 is regarding policy. We are recommending to change 6 months to 12 months for the probation. I have agreement with the department heads that they support this,
Thank you. What
at
are the
least that
wishes,
committee.
wishes of the board?
I make motion that we support Article 16 as written.
Thank you. Motion and second?
Second.
A motion and second. Any discussion on the motion to support Article 16's motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, chair votes aye, motion passes. Article 17, Personnel Bylaw Amendment, Article 4, Benefits. Ms. Craver.
Yes, there is no longevity clause in the personnel bylaw. There is a longevity clause in all of the other union contracts, and the non-union department heads are asking to have that included. And it would be 10 years, but less than 15 is $200, 15 years less than 20 is $400, and 20 years but less than 25 is $600.
Thank you.
And 25 years or more is 1,000.
What are the wishes of the board?
Through Chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I make motion to support Article 17 as written.
Second.
We have motion and second. Discussion? Ms. Craver, does our budget reflect these changes?
They do not.
Can you make sure you get back to the board on the changes for the 1% increase and also the longevity? Well, actually, it wouldn't be a 1% increase because it would be a 0.75% increase because right now they're funded at 1 3/4, the non-union, so to go up to 2.5. Could you make sure you get those numbers out to us?
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Singer?
Just 2 points.
Yes, sir.
Comments. One, it's good to work for the town.
It is.
And two, the money has to come from somewhere. Again, I'll go back to what Mr. Swenson had pointed out earlier. So these department heads, when they come to the town administrator and they say they don't have enough money, they need this, 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 and this, they're gonna need to remember that all of these things that they're asking for, if it passes the town meeting, that money has to come from somewhere.
We
This is
are,
what Paul's saying about, be careful about making your bed because you have to lie in it.
Ms. Craver?
we are shifting monies into the contract obligations in case this does change.
I'm aware, but there's still the saying about be careful, because you have to make your bed, you have to lie in it.
Thank you. But still, it'd be good to see what those numbers actually
Yes, do.
result into. A motion and second. Ms. Noble?
Quick question.
Yes,
Do
ma'am.
we have to vote on this now, or can we wait until we see what the fiscal responsibilities are?
We have made adjustments, and we'll have the funding to put that in without messing up the budget. It'll stay balanced.
Okay.
We are shifting over, as you saw in the interdepartmental line item. I didn't immediately talk about that because we certainly have 2 union contracts that are out, but I do believe that we have sufficient funds to be able to fund that.
Okay.
So, regarding your question about voting it now, I would highly recommend that if you can vote it now, your recommendation, it can be printed in the booklet.
Okay.
One thing that I think is reassuring often to the members of town meeting is when the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee are clear in
Right.
supporting or not supporting. So, I would recommend that we would be able to put your recommendation in if you're comfortable.
Okay, so these numbers have then been built into the current budget, okay, that's all I wanted to know.
And we'll get the breakdown later on.
Yes, I'd like to see the breakdown.
Mr. Singer?
This is not just for department heads.
This is for non-union,
This is for any non-union.
any non-union.
So I have a comment, but I really don't think I should make it.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
Chair votes aye, motion passes with 4 ayes and one no. Mr. Craven? Nope. Article 18, general bylaw amendment for contracts. Is this another modern municipalization bill?
No, there's been different questions over the years regarding who has the ability to make a contract. The procurement officer, elected boards, this just clarifies who can, sign contracts and who has the authority.
It must be very important. It has 2 recommendations of the Finance Committee. What are the board's wishes for Article 18?
This is the draft.
I make motion that we approve Article 18 as written.
Motion, do you hear a second?
Second.
A motion and a second to support the motion for Article 18. Any discussion? See none, and move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Article 19, general bylaws amendment, changes to appointed constables. That one is moot.
Yes, that motion is to
motion to
pass over.
Pass over indefinitely.
I make motion that we pass over Article 19.
Second?
Motion second, discussion. Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, actually, discussion on that one. That's something we should,
By-
Is it appropriate for us to vote to pass over? We were either recommending or not recommending.
No,
Uh,
pass over,
because
and then you're recommending.
Town meeting will vote, will
The motion is to, I move that Article 19 be passed over indefinitely, and then I have put a piece
right, but
underneath it.
by us saying that we're passing over the article, we're not taking a position on it one way or the other.
You're supporting the motion.
Well,
To
then
pass
we should
over.
vote to support the motion, not to pass over the motion.
okay.
No, the motion is passing over.
Right, but if we
confused.
vote to pass over, we're saying we're not, getting nitpicky, but
That's okay.
if we say we're passing over, that means we're not taking a position on the article.
Can I,
We support, I think we should vote to
It is
support
support.
or not support the motion to pass over.
I believe Mr. McGrath's intention was, let me see if I got it right, to support the motion for Article 19 as printed.
Correct.
Is that your motion?
Yes.
Is that your second?
Yeah.
Mr. Singer?
I'm sorry.
Technicality, that's all right.
No, no.
No, I'm good.
Is that your second? You're fine?
Yes, it is.
Awesome. Does everyone understand the motion on the floor?
Yes.
Seeing no further discussion, all in favor of supporting the motion for Article 19, please say aye.
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 Chair votes aye, motion passes. Article 20.
Article 20 is acceptance of a drainage easement conveyance from Curtis Hill Estates Incorporated to the Town of Charlton Highway Department.
No action
Would you
needed?
like me
We
to
don't take-
action that? No?
I don't think we need to take action.
You don't have to take
Okay.
anything on this.
Nonconformity zoning bylaw revision, Article 21, you generally do not take action on that, nor the site plan review zoning bylaw revision. 24 is discontinuance of a portion of Griffin Road. And would you like, that is a petition?
That's the petitioner, right?
Yes.
Who usually
That
leave all
is
these alone, right?
Larry McKissick's property. He's putting solar on and wants to discontinue a portion of the road that goes in. The highway, I've talked to the highway superintendent. He has no issue with that.
Mr. Craver, who is the board survey in Charlton?
Board of Surveyor,
Board of Survey is the board that accepts roads?
you?
Okay, that's what I thought.
At the recommendation of either the planning board or the highway
I
department.
think on 24, there's no action for us to take.
Okay.
And 25 is whether, are
I
you
just
done?
have a quick question. On Article 20.
Yeah, the
does-
easement, yeah.
Yeah, does Larry own both sides?
Yes.
He surrounds the whole thing?
Yes,
That's the
he
question.
does, and he's giving us an affidavit.
Okay, excellent.
Now, it's just, because we're kind of the managers, and talking about Article 20, the easements, is that something we would generally accept then? Planning board kind of doesn't, goes over recommendations for zoning and the like. would that something actually would fall under our plate for Article 20?
Historically, we haven't made recommendations on that. The planning board puts their recommendation forth and then town meeting votes.
For easements?
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Historically, that's what we did.
the reason for it is it's a subdivision that was under construction. This is the drainage easement, so the detention pond and all the, you know, the ancillary things that go into the drainage pond, so.
And with the current exception, this board traditionally hasn't had the expertise to make a judgment on that, so.
Fair enough. Thank you. And then lastly, Article 25.
It's
Again,
a
petition.
petition, and that petition is whether or not to allow marijuana businesses to locate in Charlton, Mass.
Did we ever get a legal ruling, if this is something that could actually affect anything legally?
I have not asked town council to give an opinion on that. I'm sure he will be prepared on the floor.
Mr. Singer?
They may not have given an opinion on this, however, the feedback we've already gotten from the Attorney General's office and town council on this exact thing previously was that this is an illegal vote.
I would counter with that, saying that it was, but it wasn't, but it was, but it wasn't. That's what I think.
Tennis match?
Yeah, it was a tennis match.
Right, but the bottom line is, at least the way it's written, I believe from what we were told by the AG's office and council, this is an illegal vote. So it would not be binding. The ability of residents to make a decision regarding marijuana businesses in their town does not apply to medical marijuana dispensaries, which is what this is.
Actually,
Mr. Swenson, then Ms. Noble?
Okay.
No, I'll yield.
Okay.
okay.
Good word.
I believe that there's a difference between what this says, a marijuana retail establishment and a medical marijuana dispensary. So I would like clarification as to what exactly the petitioners mean. Because there's a difference between retail and medical.
I would, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Singer?
They have, but it's not, the difference is between retail and medical. Medical is retail. The difference is between medical and recreational.
Right. If you read the
A
article, it
medical
says,
dispensary is retail.
Okay.
But you have to go through certain things, or certain processes and checks and balances to have access to it.
the last sentence in there, voice and the location of dispensary, so I would say it also includes both. Mr. Swenson?
I would say that I think we're getting beyond ourselves with this article. This is a citizen petition.
Yep.
By law, they have the right to bring this forward.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Whether or not it's legal or not legal isn't our concern. They have the right to bring it forward. Depending on the way it goes, a determination will then be made by appropriate council.
I think it would still behoove, I think, us and town council to kind of get something to present
Head
to town
start.
meeting.
When we get to that point, we will have several discussions about the differences between recreational and medical and whether we want either and or both or neither.
And hopefully this will actually make people stay to the end of the meeting.
I can tell you, I've had some conversations
good
with the
point.
petitioner, and she cited that several towns, surrounding towns around us are doing bylaws regarding recreational marijuana. And so hopefully, town meeting will be able to have a conversation about what they want and don't want, and to provide feedback to the Board of Selectmen and possibly the Planning Board. So I think that it'll ferret a good discussion.
I think it will ferret a good discussion. I think you're absolutely right, but I think, as I think we all know on this board, is this town voted at the public ballot to allow medical marijuana facilities, and this town voted overwhelmingly to legalize recreational marijuana. So the town has spoken.
I think by medical too was not even close. It was like a landslide.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thanks to Cindy's
They were
due
both
diligence.
substantial. Yeah,
I
they were
mean,
both-
Yes,
she came up with the numbers.
Yes, correct.
That's, which is,
So what this does, if it passes, I believe, is we have to now have a ballot measure on this.
Right.
Well, if it passes,
No.
the first thing will be to determine the legality of it, the standing of it.
See if it
Does
does
have
any-
merit?
Right, but then you'd have to have a ballot measure, correct?
They can make any motion that the moderator believes is within scope of this article.
Right, but what they're asking for is to,
And
They're actually
we're
not
not
asking
writing
for
the
anything.
motion.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
actually no motion, this is just a placeholder.
shall I read this again?
There's no motion there. Do you see I
There-
move to?
No, but they are pointing out what the other towns did. So it can be inferred that they're asking for the same thing,
It could be.
which would
Then they
mean,
would have to-
which
they'd
would mean,
have to
which
ask
would.
for that.
right,
they
have
have
to
to,
ask
they
for
have to,
They have to present their motion.
yeah. They have to do
There's
some
also-
work here.
There is also a cost to having a ballot.
Correct. So I think that's something to definitely discuss when that is brought up. All right, no
Thank you.
action on Article 25. FY 17 end of year department transfers, Ms. Craver? We take actions on that? I saw it in a signed folder.
Yes.
To approve. On page 97.
The Water Sewer Commission is asking for a transfer from water maintenance equipment to water legal to cover Copeland and Page costs as well as Cosgrove and Black to pay legal water fees in the amount of $3,500.
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I make a motion that we do the transfers requested.
Okay, motion second to approve the end of year department transfers request. Any discussion? This will also go to a vote for Finance Committee tomorrow night, Ms. Craver? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. It is in your signed folder.
We will now move to the town administrator's report.
Yes, very short. We've been doing a lot of work
Good.
this week. Scholarships. We received two applications for scholarships issued by the board each year for the Jesse Smith and the Phillips Cooking Fund. Unfortunately, we had to deny the applicants due to not meeting the requirements needed to apply, i.e. they were living in certain areas of town for which the scholarship being applied for as given to the town and needing to further education in culinary art. So it's unfortunate. Hopefully next year we'll have a better. And I do have something to do under other business also when we get there.
Is there any questions for the town administrator?
No.
We're gonna get there?
Is there any other business at the, unknown at the time of posting?
I hate to throw, but I got one.
Yes, Mr. Swenson?
While we were in the mediation session today for the clerical union, the discussions came up that we should get moving on the highway contract. So I think we really do want to at least get board members appointed who are going to serve on the highway contract negotiating committee.
Do you want to take care of that tonight, or I also, one thing, since we do have a new member, to look at everyone's positions and commitments to different subcommittees. So I would ask the town administrator to put that on our next agenda. But would the board want to take up the negotiations for highway?
The discussions we had today, sooner would be better than later. I don't know that 2 weeks is going to be a deal breaker, but I think sooner would.
As someone who
sooner would be
was,
better than later.
who
Is
was,
there two people that have a burning desire?
as someone who was on the original one, I would put my name out there.
I'll go on this, I'll go on it.
Do we need as
So
a
moved.
motion? We have a motion to
Thank
appoint myself and
Second.
Mr. McGrath to that committee. The motion is second. Seeing no discussion, move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you. And now, any other business on the time posting, Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir.
What was the packet?
I received complaints today, and I will say first that I did not contact 508 Beverage, nor did I contact the residents to let them know that I was bringing this forward. I wanted to bring this forward to you and get direction on how you would like to proceed. I did mention to Russ, who was here during the meeting, that this was going to happen because he happened to be here. That if he wanted to stay for this, he could do so. So, I received complaints that 508 Beverage LLC has violated the restrictions of their special liquor licenses for wine and malt beverages approved for a special event at 215 Brookside Road, Charlton, Massachusetts, on both April 22nd and May 7th. They have 6 additional special licenses on the following dates: May 20th, May 21st, June 10th, June 11th, July 1st, and July 2nd. As you know, this request is at a 22-acre outdoor venue, access road around interior of the venue with alcohol to be served in 2 beer gardens with an estimate of 500 people attending each event. The request for the special license was forwarded to the building commissioner, fire department, and police department. On recommendation of the building commissioner, the following restriction was voted by the board, and the underlining is added. No activity at any of the events listed will allow the use, operation of, and/or racing of engine-propelled on- or off-road vehicles such as motorbikes, ATVs, and/or 2- or 3-wheel drive vehicles in a manner not associated with transportation of people to or from the site until the conditions of the planning board site plan approval decision letter dated August 12, 2015 are complied with, and the building inspector, ZEO, has issued at a minimum a temporary certificate of compliance for the project. Our office has been informed that the 2 special events allowed racing on the track, a clear violation of the license. Also, I have been contacted by the town of Sturbridge that the operators of 508 are using Ladd Road, which is prohibited in their site plan with the planning board. You did not address this issue in the special license, as the expectation was that they would comply with any planning board site plan restrictions. That was an incorrect assumption. I recommend that you revisit the license and add a prohibition on the use of Ladd Road unless there is an emergency situation. The town of Sturbridge has had to provide police details for both events. I have attached the planning board's list from May 3rd of outstanding field construction elements still to be completed, and would like to know how you would like to proceed.
Ms. Craver,
Yes,
for
sir.
the list of outstanding elements completed, is that why the building inspector / ZEO has not issued a temporary certificate of compliance?
Yes, it is.
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
First, since I see the Honorable Chief sitting in the back, and I know he had detail officers there, and I know that the fire department also had EMTs, could he please enlighten the board as to, has he had any complaints from his detail officers or from anybody at the venue?
Before you have the chief do that, what I would like to say is I did have a conversation with Alan Gordon today, because I'd heard the chief make a statement about it's a public road, they should be able to use it. My concern was, and I did check with the planning board, what stops a business from using a public road during a site plan review, and you know that probably much better than I do, that when there's a restriction for a business to go into an area, that holds a lot of weight and becomes enforceable.
My question wasn't even about the road, that was gonna be after. Mine is more towards the supposed, alcohol issues.
Okay, so I also want to just add another piece to this. It's my understanding and I don't mean to keep interrupting, but
No, that's all right.
I just want to give more information. Also, my understanding is that by the board voting the special license, you gave them an event permit, which they could not have gotten otherwise, I believe.
Correct.
So, yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Okay, so first of
Now I'll
all,
stop.
I apologize, Chief. I thought there was something in here that said that they were they had liquor violations.
No.
That is not the case.
No.
So, go ahead.
Mr. Swenson has something.
I'm really curious as how our granting them the one-day liquor license for event that was already planned is in fact an event permit. I don't see that. I see it being exactly that, a permit to serve liquor at that event that was already planned.
So it's not clear that the building commissioner was the one that gave the special event permit, and his contingencies for the special license were supposed to be put in here for him to approve such a thing. It's a little fuzzy on who actually is allowing them to have this permit. You give the license. It appears to me by giving the license, you've given an event permit. And I did not have an opportunity to speak with Kurt this morning, but when I talked to Alan Gordon, he said that the site plan is not complete, that the reason that they're able to operate now, before the site plan is complete and all the things are completed, is that there has been a special event permit. Now, that may have been issued by the building commissioner, and that he made the recommendations for what he's comfortable with for having alcohol there.
If I may finish.
Yes.
This paragraph that's quoted, no activity of any of the events, blah, 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 blah. Having read the application for the liquor permit, I don't remember seeing that language in there, which was the only permit. It's in the one-day liquor license that we authorized?
Yes, sir. It's in all of the liquor licenses.
Yeah, because we approved, 10 of them.
You did, and you approved them with this is the different days. that's why I have so many.
Just to review.
So it's under building commissioner. So it actually is printed on the license.
So they then they went against the conditions in our special liquor license.
That speaks to my short-term memory.
If I remember correctly, it was that there would be no racing, is the way that I remembered it.
This is the language that was put in the building commissioner's recommendation that was given to the board and the board accepted.
So,
Exactly.
but that's the way because I talked with Kurt, okay, about this, because I knew I was all over this before this happened, and I want to make sure that everything was being done correctly. I went to the planning board and I had conversations with the applicant about, are they going to have to put a bond up because they're not substantially complete yet? Has the peer review engineer been out to tell them what that bond would be? And I was told that the planning board does not have to issue, you know, they don't make them put up a bond for that. As long as the zoning enforcement officer said that they could have an event there, they could have the event. Now, Kurt's stipulation on it, from Kurt, was that there would be no racing. And I think that we probably need to have a discussion with Kurt about what's, you know, what his thoughts and his goal was.
This is the language that he provided, that no activity of events will allow the use, operation of, and/or racing of engine-propelled on or off road vehicles such as motorbikes, et cetera, in a manner not associated with transportation of people to and from the site. It's very clear that would keep racing or any vehicles off the track on these events. That was his stipulation and voted by the board.
That's not the way I understood it when I talked with them, and I don't know, I'd probably ask Mr. Jennings if he could come forward, because I know he had discussions with Kurt. I was.
What I would say is I brought this forward because of the complaints. I put this today together. I have not gone into deep. I had actually anticipated that you would say, okay, we'll set up the hearing and we'll have everybody come back in and get the information. So I do want to just say that, you know, I had planned on getting more information, but did want to get this before you today.
Please state your name for record, please.
Russell Jennings, 39 Hammond Hill Road, Charlton. I think a lot of the confusion does come in over racing and what we were permitting under the town hall floor. We have been permitting for years a motocross facility. At this point in time, we're not doing any motocross racing whatsoever. It's very easy to see. We're taking a lot of flack from the people who supported us for not doing so. If you look at the event schedule of what you actually permitted for the liquor ID, you will notice that the very next event is the endurance games. That game, the endurance games, are cycling and running events, very similar to what happened at, I think it was the farm this past weekend with the color run.
Mr. Jennings, for the second event, if my memory serves correct, the first one was just grand opening event with nothing happening. Second one was dirt bike racing.
There was no dirt bike racing. There was barely any dirt bikes there. There were some Harley Davidsons. Those are registered motor vehicles. They
Not ones that are generally going to be racing.
rode around the track and put on a little show. There was a couple buggies that rode around the track, same thing. There was probably, on the day, there was probably 6 dirt bikes there that did not race at all.
They were on the track, though. They were doing something on the track that was not having to do with transportation, though, correct?
So, as the language was written, will allow the use, operation of and/or racing of engine-propelled on or off-road vehicles. Mr. Swanson?
Before we go too far down this road, I think it would serve everyone's best interest if we did thank the town administrator for bringing it to our attention, ask her to gather more information on it so we can all deal with it more on an intelligent level in a couple of weeks from now.
I agree.
And
Yep,
invite you
that's what I
back.
had intended.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm more than willing to come back, and I can tell you there are no motorized events
Yeah, we-
planned in
yeah,
the schedule
At this point today, we have too
until
many, I think.
September.
This is what I
Yeah.
was
Yep,
told.
Right.
agreed.
Yeah.
So if there's no
So-
objections, then we'll
So-
have that, an appointment at our next meeting.
What I would recommend is that you ask Russ not to have that, anything on the track, because I think he's going to have an event before your next. So if he can just reread the stipulations in the,
Absolutely,
Word
we
for
will
word.
have,
Thank
we'll have no motorized vehicles whatsoever.
except to transfer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd hope that at that point in time anyways, we would be 100% with our planning board permit. So
hope
that
so,
would
make it
resolve
easier.
any
Ms. Noble?
unanswered questions.
Is it possible to schedule a hearing at the next?
Yeah,
That's
so
what we
that
will
was,
do.
that's what's, yeah.
Schedule a hearing on May 23rd?
Yes, what's our, 23rd, yes.
Okay,
If there's no
And
objection from the
everyone will
board.
be notified.
okay, good.
Thank you.
And we will make sure Kirk's here to clarify also.
And not have it at 9:50 at night.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank
Very
you,
good.
thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for
Thank you for
sticking
staying,
around.
Russ.
Yep.
And thank you, Chief, for staying around as well. Thank you, Chris, and thank you, board, and thank you, Robin.
Okay.
Is there any other business unknown at the time of posting? Seeing none, our next regular selectors meeting will be, May 23rd. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Chair votes aye. We are now adjourned at 8:49. Thank you very much. Our next meeting will be the May 23rd. Good night.
Good night.